the daily life of a secret agent in American TV series. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201, Couple Fighting. Is that the couple's house? It looks good. It seems that they have managed their marriage very carefully, even though they are two completely fake killers. Ron finally failed to find a place to drink, but was pulled by Giselle to monitor the loving couple together. Of course, before coming here, they went to Disneyland for a tour. Things that Carl is not interested in may not be what Giselle is not interested in. Although in most people's eyes, Giselle is more like an emotionally cold female killer, but in fact, she is surprisingly childlike. It's already the second day. Several other fighters were also pulled over by Ron and hid in another rented house nearby. Because according to Ron's speculation, the killer organization's pursuit will come tonight. In fact, the identities of the two of them who registered their marriage are real, but Mrs. Smith is an orphan who was adopted by a killer company when she was young, so her parents hired a temporary actor. Her father also made a cameo appearance in the movie Neverland. Well, then I guess Mr. Smith must be surprised to see his father-in-law appear in the movie. Ron put his arm around Giselle's waist from behind and leaned in front of the telescope. How long will it take for them to come back? Giselle leaned over and checked the situation on the tracker. They are on their way back and will be here soon. In the morning, the lady thought that her husband had been blown to death in the elevator, but she didn't expect that her husband would appear in front of her again. So, is she sad or happy? Ron was also a little unsure about Mrs. Smith's mood. Bang! As they were talking, two cars drove towards the parking lot of the residence at the same time, but just as they were about to enter, one of the cars suddenly did something bad and knocked the other car aside, taking priority, and then rushed to the door without stopping, and a hot woman got out of the car. Look, that's Mrs. Smith. I thought Mr. Smith would be back a little earlier, Giselle said. Ron looked at his wife, who quickly set up two guns and started patrolling the house, and said playfully, in other words, you are more optimistic about Mr. Smith winning in this war between husband and wife. Of course, in the circle of killers, the physical advantage of men can give Kang an advantage. Do you want to make a bet? Make a bet? How to bet? I bet Mr. Smith will win. If I win, you take back one of the rings you gave out. How about that? Although Giselle said this in a calm tone, Ron still heard a hint of jealousy from her words. I thought you didn't care, but it turns out you are jealous too. Ron secretly curled his lips. What if I win? You want to bet on the wife to win? As they were talking, there was a flash of fire in the house, and the gun battle between husband and wife began. Mrs. Smith took the initiative with a submachine gun in one hand and a shotgun in the other. Even Giselle began to waver in her original idea. Can I change my bet now? Of course I can, Ron agreed indifferently. Anyway, I bet on them to tie. Tie? Giselle was surprised. Don't you know that the Assassin's Code clearly stipulates that if you accidentally fall in love or marry someone from the other company, you must kill the other person as soon as possible, otherwise you will be cleared out by your own company. Of course I know, so what? Ron picked up the M32 grenade launcher from the ground, twisted the magazine. And 6 grenades were already loaded and ready to be fired at any time. There are always some things that are much stronger than those cold codes, such as love. It is these beautiful emotions that distinguish humans from animals. Is it really that profound? Giselle looked at Ron differently. Of course, you can also say that after all, they are husband and wife, and nothing can dispel hatred better than firing a shot. If there is, then fire another shot. As if to prove Ron's words, the sound of fighting on the other side slowly disappeared, and the bug was replaced by various sounds of humming and eyeing. Giselle had to show admiration to Ron. She could guess this. It was amazing, wasn't it? She had just been thinking that one of the couple would have to die. Giselle was still lying on her back looking at the computer. Her bent waist outlined a sexy line. With the admiring eyes, she looked particularly attractive. With the sound from the bug, if it was any other time, Ron would have immediately picked up his gun and mounted his horse, but not today. If Ron's memory was correct, a big battle was about to come. Ron had to be fully prepared. There was no other way. The main reason was that he had a lot of time. The panting in the room gradually stopped, and 5 unidentified cars outside the house quietly surrounded them. Teams of fully armed personnel got out of the cars. Boss, we found a suspicious target. Do you want to start the attack? Hank's voice came from the intercom. No, Wait a minute, Ron looked outside. There were about 30 armed personnel in 5 cars. It was not too many. Their tactical movements were very skilled. It was obvious that they were experienced in war. If you want to win people's hearts, the best way is to help them in times of need. We can wait for a while, Ron said. Also, let's see if they have the strength to be recruited by us. If they can't even handle this level of pursuit, I don't think they can provide any reliable help to our team. Don't forget, our main goal is to collect taxes from these 2 companies. Making sure there are survivors for us to track is the first goal. Ron is not a saintly person. He came here to save the couple. He always knew what he was going to do. The besieged killers did not choose to attack the house at the first time, but threw a few smoke bombs into the house to clear the way. The couple who had just finished their passion and were lying on the floor to rest quickly got up and ran to the storage room. There were weapons hidden by Mr. Smith there, but when they found the weapons and were ready to fight the killers, the door of the storage room opened, and a tracked robot with a grenade came in. Mr. Smith kicked the grenade away, but he didn't want to kick it right on the oil barrel. FXXK. Oops, run. The couple ran out from another exit. Quick. 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 They're here. The killers were overjoyed and turned their guns around immediately, but before they could shoot, the grenade in the basement exploded. By the way, the gasoline store next to it exploded as well. Boom. The whole house was blown up into the sky by the huge explosion, and the air wave knocked everyone down. The killers who had already rushed into the house were blown to pieces. My God, such a beautiful house. These 2 people are really willing to spend it. Ron twitched his mouth. A house like this in Anaheim City would cost at least $500,000, and just like that, it was all gone. Chapter 202 Tanks Go Out. Arthur, are you sure these people are from the assassin company? How come none of them survived? Ron asked on the intercom. He had thought that he would wait for them to hurt each other and then come out to take advantage, but he didn't expect that they were all killed in an explosion. Can this be called an assassin? This is the worst batch I've ever seen. Arthur covered his face, unable to bear to look directly. In his previous company, assassins of this level were not even qualified to be in the cleanup team, let alone to carry out tasks independently. In the ruins of the house, the Smith couple, who had survived the disaster, pushed away the wooden board covering their bodies and crawled out, staring at the ruins in a daze. You two, Ron's voice suddenly appeared behind them, and the 2 immediately attacked him reflexively. Mr. Smith's fist went straight to his face, and his wife's crotch kick followed closely. Ron immediately raised his knee and turned sideways, knocking away his wife's crotch kick with a knee, then grabbed Mr. Smith's fist with both hands, and used the inertia of turning sideways to twist his whole body in the air and knocked him to the ground. Mrs. Smith on the other side missed the first shot and was about to take out a kitchen knife to continue attacking, but a pistol was pointed at her head. At this point, both of them were defeated. Ron rolled his eyes. He looked like a soft persimmon. Why did everyone want to pinch him? Don't worry, I have no ill will towards you. If I really wanted to kill you, I would have let the sniper blow off your heads just now, Ron shouted loudly. Hank, say hello to our lovely Smith family. Bang! With a crisp sound, the bullet grazed Mr. Smith's scalp and made a small hole in the ground in front of him. Mr. Smith, who was still struggling, immediately became obedient, and Ron let go of his hand with satisfaction. Well, if you are not in the same group as those killers, what do you want from us? Money, a lot of money. Ron gently adjusted his suit that was a little wrinkled due to the intense exercise. Formally introduce myself, Ron Lee Cooper, captain of the IRS Special Operations Team. Did your company pay taxes? Ha. I didn't know since when. Assassin companies also have to pay taxes. Mr. Smith felt as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. As assassins need to pay taxes? I haven't paid a penny. When he said this, his tone was extremely proud, and Mrs. Smith couldn't help but cover her face. Why did I fall in love with such a fool back then? Well, thank you Mr. Smith for your confession. Maybe tomorrow you can go to my accountant to calculate your income over the years and pay the taxes you owe. The money was delivered to his face, and it would be too much if he didn't accept it, so Ron could only agree. In the great United States of America, no business can be tax-free, even for assassins. If you can assist me in conducting tax investigations on your respective companies, I am willing to protect your future lives, provided that you join us. The 2 looked at each other with incredible expressions in their eyes. They had originally planned to find a place to wander around the world after getting rid of the assassins to avoid being hunted down. Unexpectedly, the most troubling problem before was solved by Ron inadvertently. Of course, they did not doubt the truthfulness of Ron's words. In the United States, everyone knows the power of the IRS. And just like Arthur at the beginning, a chance to clean up is rare and precious for these assassins who are mixed in the dark. Mrs. Smith immediately grabbed this life-saving straw and answered impatiently, "We are willing to join. How are you going to protect us? Our original company is very powerful and will continuously send assassins to hunt us down. For example, the 3 cars that appeared behind you, what are you going to do?" Mrs. Smith pointed behind Ron. 3 cars turned out from the corner of the street and were driving towards them quickly. Ron turned around without caring and made a gesture with his hand like a pistol. "Their cars are bulletproof." Mrs. Smith stopped talking halfway. Because as Ron made a pop sound with his mouth to sound a gun, as if shooting, a cannonball flew out from an unknown angle on the street and hit the car in the middle. Boom! The car turned into a huge fireball and flew into the sky. Mrs. Smith opened her mouth in surprise, because from the other side of the street, an old Sherman tank was drilling out from the bushes, and the cannonball just now was its masterpiece. "What did you say just now? What's wrong with the car?" Ron turned around. "I said cars are bulletproof." Mrs. Smith changed her words halfway through her sentence. "No, I said nothing." A wave of swear words in various languages immediately broke out from the car opposite. The killers were desperate and wanted to curse. "I'm just chasing a traitor, why do I have to drive out all the tanks?" However, while cursing, his hands were not idle. The remaining 2 cars immediately used a tail-swinging action on the road, turned the front of the car, stepped on the accelerator to the bottom, and prepared to escape. There was no thought of even resisting. What a joke. Even if it was an old thing left over from World War II, a tank is a tank. No matter how bulletproof a car is, can it compare with a tank? Don't want to die. Unfortunately, the delay of these few seconds was enough for the 76mm main gun on the Sherman to be reloaded. The turret squeaked and turned, and immediately aimed the muzzle at one of the cars again. Boom! One shot hit the sole, and the car was blown up into the sky again. The other car finally took this opportunity to speed up and ran away around the corner. The tank also stopped when it caught up with Ron, opened the hood, and poked out a head full of white hair. "This feels great. This thing is exactly the same as the car I drove when I joined the army. As long as you are satisfied, if you like it, this car will be your personal car in the future. No one except you can drive this thing. Dr. Hannibal, welcome to join us and become a formal member." Ron waved his hand at it. "Don't worry, all its procedures have been filed with the military. You can drive it on the road legally. I believe no one will be blind enough to cause trouble for you. This big guy is enough to teach everyone to respect the elderly and love the young." The Sherman tank has a full crew of 5 people, and at least 3 people can drive it. In addition to Hannibal and Morgan Freeman who have experience, the last crew member is Carl Jr. There is nothing wrong with respecting the elderly and loving the young. "Damn it, %you, I $Mr. Smith cursed a series of swear words for a long time, and finally took a breath. "You call this thing a taxi? Are you crazy? How dare you drive this thing into residential area? You will definitely get a complaint. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203 Supermarket. Sherman M4 Tank, a used item that Ron found in the military warehouse. Damn those bastards in the Pentagon! Such an old tank from World War II is actually in service in an armored company and a museum just because it can still run. It's really a good use of it. Ron was stunned by this operation. He was acupuncturing himself on the surface while the generals in the Pentagon were in the atmosphere. However, after getting it back, he faced another problem, that is, how to start this big guy? Fortunately, the chef Mr. Hannibal and the cleaner Morgan Freeman said that they had served in the army and could use this big guy. As long as they were equipped with a helper, little Carl got on the car smoothly. No, absolutely not, because we are making a movie. This is the permit application for making a movie. Ron took out an application form and slapped it directly in Mr. Smith's face. And I believe that no neighbor nearby will complain, because 10 hours ago, The entire community has received a set of Disney family tour tickets from me in the name of the film company, so there's no neighbor near your house now. So can you take me to your original company now? By the way, your company should be controlled by the same boss." Mrs. Smith understood. No wonder there was such a big commotion, and even the police were not alerted. "Of course, I always know where the company is. The company's headquarters is hidden in the Coster supermarket in the south of the city. The question is, how do you plan to get there? Just drive the tank through the city center, why not?" After saying that, Ron climbed onto the roof of the tank, knocked on the hatch, and the window door opened. Ron, half of his body got in. "Do you two want to come together?" The couple looked at each other and shook their heads in unison. They still preferred to drive their own SUV. "Well, let's go." Ron climbed on the driver's back, and the old tank made a mechanical roar and drove out. Along the way, Ron was enjoying the night view while greeting the passing vehicles in the tank until he received a call from Hobbs. "FXXK. You bastard, you actually drove the tank to the street. What do you want to do?" "Of course, it is to carry forward the glorious tradition of our IRS, driving a tank to collect taxes. This is how our ancestors in the 1950s received taxes from the Corleone family. Such a good tradition must be passed on." Ron said it very righteously, but if Hobbs could believe it, he would be a ghost. Hobbs said angrily, "Bullshit. This is not the era of the 1950s when gangs rose together. This is not Chicago. I don't allow you to mess around in my territory." "Sorry, let me correct you. Los Angeles is my territory, not yours. I came here a few months earlier than you." Ron said sorry, but there was no apology on his face. "Stupid Hobbs. After so long, I didn't expect you still can't see the situation clearly. Do you really think I just want to make a big scene to drive the tank out?" Well, Ron admitted that there were indeed some reasons in this regard, but only a small part of it. Its more important purpose was to demonstrate to the people behind the assassin company. He had investigated and found that the so-called witness who knew the whereabouts of was simply fictitious. In other words, someone used a fictitious witness to lead him to the deserted U.S.-Mexico border, and also placed orders to the killers through different vests to eliminate this witness. Was the target really the witness? The target was clearly himself. Even if you think about it with your butt, you know that how could a drug dealer on the U.S.-Mexico border know the actions of the world's #1 terrorist? If Ron hadn't happened to bring Arthur with him, Arthur happened to predict the other party's actions, and the assassins who carried out the assassination mission happened to be a couple. With so many coincidences, maybe Ron would have become a pile of mincemeat and been wrapped in a body bag and sent back to his hometown in Texas. This made him very annoyed. Since his debut, he has always been the one who sent others to see God. This is the first time that he was almost sent to see God. Well, even so, I advise you not to act rashly. Don't be anxious. I will bring my people to help you right away. Don't be impulsive. Sorry, it's too late." The tank body shook violently, and the body changed from moving to still. The turret began to rotate and aim. "It's too late? What does that mean?" Hobbs was anxious. He suddenly had a bad feeling. "It's too late means that I'm going to start attacking." Click. The turret rotated in place and faced the supermarket. But before the shells were fired, suddenly, 2 rockets flew out from both sides of the supermarket and hit the tank at high speed. Boom! At a distance of less than 100 meters, the old Sherman tank was directly blown into a fireball by the rocket, like a burning coffin, wailing on the spot. Is this the first agent of the IRS? It looks like nothing. I thought he was a very capable person. The basement of the supermarket was not filled with messy goods like other supermarkets, but was filled with various computers and cutting-edge electronic equipment. A man in a suit said this while smoking a cigar and watching the burning tank on the monitor. "I think it's better to be careful. Ron has such a huge reputation in the spy circle. There must be something special about him." The subordinate standing next to him couldn't tell why, but he just felt something was wrong. Special? His death was particularly interesting? Ho ha ho ha! The man in the suit laughed as if he heard a particularly interesting joke. Indeed, no one has died in a tank in the United States for many years. Maybe he has set a record? The first American to die in a tank in the new century, but the subordinate next to him was still a little bit unbelievable, and even leaned over to carefully re-watch the footage captured by the surveillance video. This action finally exposed her face completely from the dim light. If Ron happened to be here, he would definitely be shocked. This person actually has a face exactly like Arthur. No, or to say that it's exactly the same is a bit too much. There's still a little difference in general. The eye area looks more like Owen, who has dealt with by Ron in London before. That's right, this is Owen's legendary spy brother, who is also the ace of the spy world, Deckard Shaw. Ron used all his connections to search for him on Earth for half a year, but couldn't find any trace of him. He didn't expect that he would appear in such an unexpected way today. Chapter 204 Board Ron. The scrap tank was burning on the spot, emitting thick smoke. The killer hidden in the dark showed his figure and was about to confirm Ron's death. Behind another building, Ron turned on the intercom. 8 o'clock, 11 o'clock, fire. As soon as the voice fell, 2 grenades were fired from the roof of the house where Ron was hiding, hitting the 2 killers in ambush. Boom! Not only the killer himself, but also the nearby supermarket window was torn into pieces, and the goods placed inside were blown everywhere by the explosion. FXXK. Didn't he die just now? The man smoking a cigar in the basement said in disbelief. I said it before, Ron can't be finished so easily. Although the facts proved Deckard Shaw's idea, there was no pride on his face. He hoped that Ron would die in the explosion just now more than anyone else. If Ron didn't leave, his revenge plan would not be able to start at all. Deckard could not have achieved his current status by a reckless man with strong limbs and simple mind. This is really a trouble. What should we do next? The man smoking a cigar asked Deckard. No, he's just your trouble, not mine. Unconsciously, he had retreated to the door of the basement. Good luck, bastards. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 flash bombs modified with delayed introduction suddenly exploded, and the basement was filled with white light. What were you waiting for? When his eyes finally regained their sight, Doug had disappeared. Damn British, the man smoking a cigar was furious, but he could do nothing. Outside the basement, as the sniper ambushed by the assassin company was killed by Hank, 2 modified cars suddenly turned out from the corner of the street and crashed into the gaps that had just been blown up. For a while, gunshots rang out in the supermarket. It's so boring. I thought I could have a little competition, but I didn't expect it to be so easy to deal with. Ron turned his pistol and looked at the gunfire that occasionally lit up in the supermarket, and said in boredom. The tank at the beginning was just a bait. No matter how stupid Ron was, he was not stupid enough to drive a tank to cause trouble, even though he knew there was a pit. Everything was just a show for others to see. Even on the tank, waving to others was just to make people believe that there was really someone in the tank. The real driver had already withdrawn from the car a street away. The rest of the actions were completed by the simple remote control device installed, just to lure out the sniper. Hank set off at the same time as Ron and his friends left the Smith's house. Cars are faster than tanks anyway, and he had already arrived at the scene to ambush. Arthur and Giselle came with him. The car that crashed into the supermarket from the left was theirs. The fighters in the other car were naturally the Smiths, who had just been honest with each other. Unknowingly, Ron had as many as 7 fighters. This did not include Hannibal and Morgan Freeman, who could drive tanks. Although the 2 old men were old and mainly did odd jobs at the base, they were very skilled. Ron felt that with preparation, the real strength of these 2 people was no less than any other person in the team. If the 2 old men were a few years younger, Ron would not be 100% sure that he could handle them. So, Ron has 9 powerful fighters under his direct command. In addition, Ron and Toretto still maintain a very close friendship. After obtaining the amnesty, Toretto's gang returned to Los Angeles. At the same time, it also became a force that Ron can mobilize at any time. In Toretto's words, we are family. When family members are in trouble, family heroes can't just stand by and watch them die, right? Ron said that Los Angeles is his territory, and it is not an exaggeration at all. If someone else controls this force, I'm afraid they will laugh in their dreams, such as Hobbs, who is jealous of Ron. But Ron finds it a bit dull and even a little boring. His subordinates are so powerful, how can he play in the future? We'll torture the couple to find out where they hid their money, and then we can kill them. Ron turned around, holding a sniper grenade launcher. Cam K, who had just come down from the roof, was confused. Why don't we wait for them to finish before we go eat something together? Forget it, this kind of small-scale battle is too boring. You can go back directly after you finish it. I believe you are not a bunch of useless people like the FBI, who need me to personally take care of everything. We can have the welcome party for the couple tomorrow. Hobbs, who are you trying to be so Versailles with here? Ron waved his hand, got on his Bumblebee sports car and disappeared into the night. Less than 20 minutes after he disappeared, the battle was over. As Ron said, after having absolute strength, everything became very boring and unremarkable. In this case, Ron might as well go back to play with his alien brother, or just go home and have a sleep. When Ron finally got home, Sheldon was nowhere to be seen. Only Penny, Leonard, and Howard were preparing to go out. "Has anyone of you seen Sheldon? Did you just lose patience and cut him up today?" Ron walked to the refrigerator. "Should I open the refrigerator? Will a piece of Sheldon's body just fall out when I open the door?" Sheldon and Rajesh went to participate in a card game competition at the comic book store, and Penny is about to introduce a girlfriend to Howard. Leonard explained, "Ron, do you want to come with them?" Ron's heart moved. It was Bernadette, the big, sharp-tongued girl that Howard was destined to be with. If you say this, Ron will not be sleepy anymore, of course. Ron's no. "Leonard, you can't let Ron go with us." Leonard's proposal was strongly opposed by Howard. "If Legolas and Frodo stand together, which woman will talk to Frodo?" "No, you think too much, Howard. You are at most a Samwise Gamgee." Ron shrugged. "Sheldon is Frodo. If you don't speak, Sheldon is the attractive one among you. After all, we have the same genes," Ron said narcissistically, and in fact, it was true. After Sheldon became an adult, Ron had seen countless women flirting with Sheldon in various ways, but all of them were avoided by this fool who didn't know the fun. Leonard and Howard looked at each other. "Boss, I know you are telling the truth, but it shouldn't be so heartbreaking, right? Listen, Ron, I know you have a lot of women. There is really no need to compete with me for such an inconspicuous waiter." Howard decisively decided to beg for mercy. Chapter 205, Meeting at the Bar. "Don't worry, Howard, I won't steal your limelight. I can pretend to be interested in Leonard." Ron turned his head and turned into a gay expression. Leonard couldn't stand it. "Ron, this is useless. Even if the girl knows you are a gay, she will want to try to see if there is any possibility of turning you straight," Howard said helplessly. "Unless you bring a partner, you understand." Howard told the truth. Just like men will not be deterred by a woman because she is a lesbian. They will only think that this woman must have not met an outstanding man before, and they just happen to be outstanding enough. Bring a partner. Ron held up his chin and thought about it. At this time, Giselle was finishing up with others. Fiona returned to college campus at Ron's suggestion. Max and Caroline were working in a restaurant. Recently, their small cake shop was not doing well, which made them spend more time on other ways to make money. Megan is filming, and Peggy's special characteristics will never be exposed. If she does, she will lose her current peaceful life and become an important target of all extremist organizations and intelligence organizations of various countries. So well, I do have a lot of optional targets, but today probably won't work. Ron sighed helplessly. "I'll sit in the passenger seat in a while, and Penny will sit in the back with you two. I'll try not to talk." "Okay, let's change the subject. Tell me more about the mother of my future child." "Okay," Howard finally compromised and asked impatiently as soon as he got into the car. "She's super cute, Howard. You'll definitely like her." Howard continued to ask nervously. "Then how did you describe me to him? Did you mention my body fat content?" "No, I wanted to give him a surprise." Penny rolled her eyes. She already felt regretful. "You should be thankful that she didn't say that," Ron interrupted, "because it just so happens that my body fat percentage is the same as yours, but my muscle content is more than 10 times yours." Ron goes to the gym 3 times a week on average, staying in the gym for at least 2 hours each time, and has the habit of running every day. This is the secret to his good figure. In one sentence, Howard immediately felt a sense of crisis. "Hey, men, this is mine. You can't interfere." "Don't worry, I don't plan to do that. I am very satisfied with my current love life. I spend time with a woman every day and have a day off on weekends. This must be God's will." Ron made a cross on his chest. If God knew that Sunday was used for this guy to do this, he would definitely send down a thunderbolt to kill him. "I said you are an aerospace engineer and you know 5 languages. Penny tried to comfort Howard, but was interrupted by Howard halfway through her words. 6. And Klingon, Howard corrected. "Believe me, Howard, you'd better tell her that you only know 5 languages. No woman will be excited because you can speak Klingon, unless she's a weirdo like Sheldon. In that case, you might as well just be with Sheldon." "I approve." Ron was halfway through his words when he suddenly remembered that Howard seemed to have helped Sheldon find a female companion who could speak Klingon, but he chose to stay with Amy. When watching the show, Ron regretted it for him. But now that he has really become Sheldon's brother, Ron can only sigh that a guy like Sheldon is lucky to marry any woman. Think about it. That poor woman almost has to endure Sheldon for the rest of her life. By the way, I also told her that you have an abnormal attachment to your mother. What? If he wasn't in the car, Howard would almost jump up. Okay, I'm just kidding. The car stopped in front of a house. Standing at the door was a blonde girl wearing glasses and a red shirt. Penny waved. Here. Bernadette. Oh, Penny, thank you for introducing me to such a man. You must be Howard, right? Do you want to sit in the back with me now? The look Bernadette gave Ron made Howard want to crush his head with a pair of scissors. Oh, Bernadette, that's Ron, and this is Howard. Penny hurriedly introduced them. Ron saw that Bernadette's mood visibly dropped, and Howard's hope also dropped. Well, my damn peerless face, Ron complained in his heart. But there was nothing he could do. Who made him born with such an intoxicating face? It wasn't Ron's fault. Howard complained in a low voice, look at what you have done. I can't help it. It's not my fault. If anyone must be held responsible for this incident, I believe it should be Mr. George and Ms. Mary who live in Texas. Ron shirked responsibility and said, maybe you can call them to complain. Bernadette got on the car and the car started again. The scene was very awkward for a while, so awkward that Howard could only make up something to increase his presence. Penny said that you were working as a waitress while studying, right? That's great. What did you study? Microbiology, Bernadette answered absent-mindedly. She had been secretly looking at Ron, who was sitting in front of her through the rearview mirror. Cool, you can study me now. Bernadette looked confused. I don't understand what this means. Isn't microbiology the study of tiny organisms? I know, that's what I studied. So, look at me. I'm as petite as a microorganism, Howard said in a lower and lower voice. Okay, I'm just kidding. Are you sure? Bernadette looked doubtful, and Ron couldn't help but cover his face. This joke was really stupid. Few normal men would say petite is an advantage, especially in the United States, where tough guys are admired. This is not a brainwashed Asian country where men can become stars with their exquisite faces and charming figures. In fact, in Ron's hometown, those Korean-style fresh meats may be beaten just for walking on the street. Howard decided to change the subject. Do you like science fiction novels? No, Bernadette said briefly. What about the role-playing game? Do you play it in the bedroom or something like Dungeons and Dragons? Either is fine. Howard showed a long-lost lewd smile. He liked both. Neither. Do you like magic? Howard was going to perform a little magic trick to show off his skills. Not interested. Okay, the handkerchief that was half taken out of the sleeve was stuffed back again. Ron was really helpless. Miss, please can you stop staring at me? This always makes me feel that Howard has a green head. Leonard, just put me in the bar in front. The person I'm going to meet is waiting for me there. Ron didn't make an appointment with anyone, but he couldn't stand the awkward atmosphere now. If he really went to dinner with him, Bernadette might really become his girlfriend. It doesn't matter whether she is a woman or not. What's important is that Ron doesn't want to give up one day of rest every week. That is what God promised to respectable workers, and Ron is a worker. No problem. Leonard parked the car on the side of the road, and Ron got out quickly. If he stayed any longer, the Jew would be in trouble. Of course, he couldn't go home right now, because there was nothing to do there. Ron could only go to the bar to have a few drinks to kill time, but something magical happened. The moment Ron walked into the bar, a petite girl at the bar turned back at the same time, and Ron was stunned. Bernadette, why are you here? That's right, the girl sitting at the bar in sportswear looked exactly like Bernadette. The only difference was probably the clothes and glasses. This girl didn't wear glasses. Pretend to meet an old friend and take the opportunity to chat up? Such an old trick. Ron carelessly squeezed past another man in sportswear next to him. He seemed to want to sit over there too, and sat directly next to the girl. Ron Lee Cooper, whether you believe it or not, 10 minutes ago, I was in the same car with a girl who looked almost exactly like you. I pretended to believe it. What's next? Are you going to tell me that her name is also Hope Ann Gregory? The girl put down her glass. Okay, maybe you happen to be a gymnastics enthusiast, and remember me, a former gymnastics star. You look more like a rugby player. But your way of chatting up is really too old-fashioned. Do you want me to sign for you? Where is the signature? Gymnastics. Autograph, Ron asked in confusion. Hope didn't say anything, but just pointed at the sign above the bar, which was full of photos of gymnastics competitions and previous Olympic Games, and even a few medals. Even the TV in the bar was playing pictures of gymnastics competitions. Looking at the date, it was still today's competition. Ron understood. It turned out that this was a gymnastics-themed bar. No wonder she said that. Well, I have to admit that I'm not a gymnastics fan, but you're right about one thing. I used to be a football player, the ace quarterback who led the Harvard University Crimson team to successfully defend the championship. Ron extended his hand again. As an apology for admitting your mistake, can I buy you a drink? Of course. Hope gently shook Ron's hand and agreed. She was in a very depressed mood today. She came to the bar with a hint of wanting to indulge herself. Of course, she wouldn't mind having one more drink. 2 glasses of whiskey, pure, with ice. Ron took the glass and pushed one of them to Hope. I have never paid attention to the sport of gymnastics. It's too niche, but the girl on TV looks good, really? That's my girl, Hope said with a lack of interest, but maybe not on the future. Maybe she can win a gold medal? In that case, you will have the opportunity to join the coaching staff of the U.S. team. Ron knew everything about the sports circle. Many of his classmates are still in major leagues. His former teammate Spencer is a football agent. That's great, really? Can't you be happy about training an Olympic champion? You're really too picky. Ron touched his glass lightly and drank it all in one gulp. Another glass. I don't care whether she wins the gold medal or not. The only thing I care about is that the legacy left to me by my coach is actually a scam, Hope said with dull eyes. You just said you saw a girl who looks like me? What kind of person is she? Bernadette, my good friend's girlfriend. There's a high probability that the two will get married and give birth to at least 2 lovely babies. Now she is a waitress in a restaurant. Of course, this is only a part-time job. She uses the money from working to support herself to continue studying. She is a microbiology major. I guess she will definitely work in a well-known pharmaceutical company in the future, since she is an outsider anyway. Ron simply told Hope about Bernadette's ending. At the same time, he was silently recalling in his heart, but he still couldn't remember what other dramas this actor had played. Ron roughly understood the rules of this world. It was probably a parallel world composed of movies and TV series. If there are different roles played by the same actor, they will most likely look very similar. For example, the Seven Goodies, or his old teammate who is a football agent and looks very similar to Hobbs. But the problem is that the actors of The Big Bang Theory are not too famous, and I haven't heard of any other dramas or movies. You must want to sleep with her, right? Hope was silent for a while, and suddenly said out of the blue, and Ron almost choked to death on a mouthful of wine. Ahem. Hey, didn't you hear what I said? She is the girlfriend of my good friend, and there is a high probability that they will get married in the future. Do I look like the kind of person who cheats on my friend? Ron wiped off the wine that sprayed on his body and yelled dissatisfiedly. Hope didn't say anything, but just stared at Ron with wide eyes. Ron was a little guilty when he was looked at. I'm really not that kind of person. I didn't say you are, but Hope swept away the depressed expression just now, and instead liked her lips seductively like a little girl who found a new toy, and deliberately puffed out her chest. But don't you want to try? From now on, you can call me Bernadette. That's her name, right, right. Ron nodded, but immediately found something wrong. More than wrong? It was simply terrible. I don't want to try it. It's too sinful, and do I look like someone who lacks women? Ron didn't finish his words, and his mouth was blocked by a soft object. Ron hugged back almost reflexively, and then responded. Hope was almost out of breath from the kiss. Her face flushed, and she immediately returned to Ron's arms. I have a room in the hotel next door. Do you want to go back with me? I said. I'm really not that kind of person, Ron said righteously. Yes, that's right. Ron Lee Cooper is such a gentleman who is not moved by sex. Hope continued to blow in Ron's ear. I used to be a gymnast, won a bronze medal, and my body is very soft. Go. Chapter 206, Small Cake Shop Crisis. In a small commercial street not far from Caltech in Pasadena, the sign of Max's Homemade Cupcakes is still flashing, but there are almost no customers in the store. Well, the word almost is superfluous. There are no customers at all. The two lovely girls stared at the eviction notice on the table and worried. For only 46 cents, you can get such a huge humiliation. It's amazing. Really? You're leaving after only paying 3 months rent in half a year? Your batting average is as high as 50%. We should be in the Hall of Fame. Okay, Max made a baseball analogy. Girls, I'm going to buy a cupcake on the way to the gym. The wind chimes rang, and a customer came in, but it was their acquaintance, Sophie. Caroline asked Sophie to sit down first and went to get her favorite flavors, but found that several flavors were missing from the kitchen window. She couldn't help but ask, "Max, where are the lemon meringue cakes? We don't make them anymore." Not only that, but also the berry marshmallow flavor and purple velvet cakes. "We have a lot left over every day. Even the stray woman I deliver cakes to every night says, 'Girl, your cake shop is going to go bankrupt, right?' So, you would rather believe the ideas of a homeless person than the business plan of a Wharton School graduate?" Ron walked into the store and greeted everyone with a smile. Oh, Caroline's Prince Charming Sophie's eyes were full of peach blossoms. "I look so rude now, Max. I need to use the bathroom to touch up my makeup, please," Ron said with a smile on Max's behalf, and picked up the expulsion letter on the table. "My girls, it looks like you are in trouble." "No, this is not a trouble. Let me tell you what I'm going to do." Caroline snatched the expulsion letter from Ron's hand and tore it into pieces. "Look, the problem is solved." "Oh, you tore up an expulsion letter? This is what my mother and I used to do." Max covered his chest with his hands. "Caroline, you are just delaying the problem, not really solving it. If you want to solve it, I think it's better to pay the rent." Ron took out his wallet and pressed it on the fragments of the eviction letter. "This problem should be solved in this way." "No, Ron, we can't spend your money anymore." Caroline took Ron's wallet and stuffed it back into his clothes. "To be honest, I suspect that the money in the crowdfunding account was all yours." "Ron, you can't do this. At least let me keep my last dignity. If you do this again, I would rather be the mistress of the old man I rejected before." Caroline graduated from Wharton Business School, although this degree is very poor for someone with a family background like hers, so poor that she can graduate smoothly as long as Mr. Channing donates money to the school. "No, I swear, that money has absolutely nothing to do with me." Ron raised his hand and swore, and it was true. That was the money left to her by Mr. Channing, and Ron even earned a tax bonus from this money before handing it over to Sol to continue operating. Of course, Ron returned this part of the money to Sol and added it to Caroline's entrepreneurial fund plan. But because Ron's superior audit department is checking all fund accounts, the current situation of the small cake shop is not surprising. Sol has stopped transferring money to Caroline's fundraising account for more than 3 months. Of course, it's not that there is no money at all, otherwise it would be too deliberate. It's just a few small payments, and the store's own cash flow is not enough to support the huge expenses of the store. That's right, this store is too big for their business, and Caroline is eager to succeed and invested too much money in decoration, which makes the cost even higher. Now, it has become a situation where it is difficult to get off the tiger. But even so, it shouldn't be so destitute. Ron asked his doubts. "If I remember correctly, there are several good schools next to this place. I really don't understand why the business is still like this with you two beauties in charge. There are wretched audicus everywhere here. Even if it's just to sit in the store and look at you more, they will more or less spend some money in the store, right? I have a friend named Howard, he will definitely do this, and try to chat you up with all kinds of wretched and dirty talk. It can't be that small cakes are no longer popular, right?" "Yes, that's right, so they are in the small cake shop at the intersection." "Who made the bitches in that shop wear bikinis to work?" Max complained. "That's what we can do." Ron knew too well the lethality of bikini work clothes to audicus. It's not surprising that Max's store was blown to pieces. "Max," Caroline held Max's hand, "I know the current situation of the store is not optimistic. I have been thinking about this problem all day. Even the erotic dreams I had were about me paying rent to Ryan Gosling." "Ryan Gosling?" Ron was a little jealous. "To be honest, your taste is really good. Many people have said that he looks a bit like me." "Then I forgive you for not dreaming about me. I swear, I only dreamed of him once, and it was you every other time." Caroline comforted Ron and continued, "I just hope that God can give me some instructions and point us in the direction to go. Then I guess you and my mother must have a lot to talk about." Dingling, the wind chimes rang again, and Caroline excitedly shook Max's arm. "Look! What did I say? There are customers coming. This indicates that our store will never go bankrupt. Hurry up, pretend to be busy." Max put on a haughty attitude. "Sir, I'm sorry I can't expedite your order of 100 cakes because Oprah has been waiting in line ahead of you for a long time. She plans to hold a cake party at home to entertain her friends." "Oh, really? This news is so tragic for me," Ron said in the exaggerated tone of a drama performance. "God knows how much I love your cakes. They are my spiritual food. I can't feel the meaning of life if I don't eat them for a day. Ron squinted his eyes quietly. How about it? Is the acting okay? Good job. Ron, next time you can try to be more emotional, Caroline praised in her low voice, and immediately put on a business smile. How can I help you? Hello, my name is Joan Morse. The woman was gesturing beside her, and the man was responsible for dubbing, and he seemed to be of no ordinary background. Chapter 207 The Future of the Little Egg Shop. I really wish I could be rich enough to have someone speak for me, Max said with great envy. Max, are you blind? He's deaf. Max's expression was even more envious. That's so cool. Ever since she moved in, I've been hoping to become deaf. Ron agreed with Max's opinion. Although it was not nice to say so, Caroline's personality was not very pleasing. She was a person who liked to brag and was somewhat accustomed to being self-centered. Of course, this situation got much better after she fell into trouble. I'm a representative of California Commercial Real Estate Company. We want to buy your store with money. The woman gestured and the man spoke, but what he said was not so pleasant. Ron remained silent and gave up his position at the counter. Although he cared about the two of them very much, he had no right to make any decisions for them. Thank you for your generosity, but we are not interested. Caroline refused immediately, and used sign language to show the woman what she was saying. I know a little sign language. The other party not only did not leave, but also made an offer. We are willing to buy your lease and the entire store for $25,000, FXXK. Of course it's good, Max shouted excitedly. If Caroline hadn't stopped her, she would probably have agreed immediately. Max, no. Don't talk nonsense. This store is our dream. Caroline stopped her immediately. Max retorted, but our dreams are turning into nightmares, and no one will wake us up. This is our future. Caroline tapped the table and said word by word. After that, she turned around and refused. I'm sorry, thank you very much, but we won't sell it. Our business is just starting to flourish. We will give you some time to think about it, but you owe too much rent. Even if you want to stay, you have to pay 6 months of rent first. So, I suggest that you accept the $25,000 first. This condition is already very good, the people from the commercial real estate company said as they stepped back, because Sophie had come out of the bathroom, twisting her body, dancing an eye-catching dance, and followed them out. Obviously, she took the real estate agent's sign language as some kind of dance invitation. Maybe it was so strange in Poland. Caroline, if you don't plan to accept my investment, I suggest you carefully consider their suggestions, Ron said seriously. It is obvious that you have been overwhelmed by the small cake shop that attracts customers with bikinis. Even paying rent has become a luxury. Ron, this is none of your business. Caroline looked a little annoyed. We have to decide this matter ourselves. You said you wanted God to give you a revelation. Isn't the gesture of pointing and gesturing the most obvious revelation? This time, Max chose not to stand on the side of Caroline. Usually they support each other. But this time, it's an exception. Okay, no more words. Caroline picked up the bag. Even if I go to work at McDonald's, this store will continue to operate. I still have confidence in our dream. This dream is definitely not something that can be accepted by a deaf agent who just offers a price. Caroline slammed the door angrily. Women, love to act on impulse, right? Max put his hands on the table, speaking like a frustrated middle-aged man whose wife ran away. Don't you need to go out and chase your white chick? Ron teased. Maybe she'll have an affair with a black guy in the corner before she gets too far away. No. That should be your problem. Well, I'm sorry to witness the unhappiness between you today. Maybe she has too many expectations for this business. Ron stood up. There was no one around. He walked directly to the counter and hugged Max behind her. I think you should help me persuade her more recently. If you buy this store for $25,000, I think it's a good deal. The rent for a store of this size in this location is about $2,500 a month. Although the decoration in the store looks luxurious, Ron knows that it was made by the two girls themselves. Of course, the people in the restaurant helped. After deducting the net profit in the past few months, although it is not much, minus the rent owed, there is still a lot of money left. Compared with the first store opened in a different time and space, the first business of the two can basically be regarded as a success. Hey, don't bother me all the time. That blonde beauty is obviously your problem. You should chase her out now. Max was a little uncomfortable with Ron's teasing. Ron lowered his head and breathed softly in her ear. Max immediately fell into his arms. But isn't there another black-haired beauty of mine here? Just as Ron was about to do something unnecessary, 4 stupid-looking figures climbed onto the glass window of the store. Ron had no choice but to let Max go. Sheldon, why are you here? Sheldon raised the kite in his hand. Of course we came to the nearby park for a kite competition. What else can we do? Good morning, beautiful lady. Howard came up to greet him, but Max habitually ignored him. Kite competition? This is the first time I've heard of this thing being able to be a competition. Do you want to wait until it rains to compete and see who gets darker after being struck by lightning? Max brought out 4 small cakes to entertain Ron's friends and complained by the way. Unexpectedly, before Sheldon spoke, Leonard was strongly dissatisfied and retorted, "This is a very competitive and intense sport. In fact, the risk of cutting the throat is very low. In addition, serious abrasions are a fact, and this danger often occurs," Sheldon added with lingering fear. Max was completely confused. She pointed with her finger and said, "Ron, are these people really your friends?" Max didn't think Ron had to be friends with anyone, but she felt that a manly man like Ron, standing with his weak chicken Atticus, was a bit out of place. "Yes, that's right, we are good friends," Ron explained awkwardly, "although I don't want to admit it, the tallest one is still my biological brother. What do you think? The world is amazing, right? OMG. Max looked back and forth between Ron and Sheldon several times, and said in disbelief, "Allow me to say it again, OMG. How could you have such a brother?" "Hey," Sheldon felt offended, "I am such a smart person, how could I have such a primitive brother?" Recommending a friend's new book. I went to Hogwarts after being spotted by Grindelwald Principal, Gellert Grindelwald, President of the Wizard Reform Association, first-class magician of the Order of Merlin, to Mr. Sean Wallop. "Congratulations, you have been accepted to study at Nurmengard School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Enclosed is a list of required books and equipment. The semester is scheduled to start on September 1st. Please send your reply before July 31st. Sincerely. Vice Principal, female, Vita Rozier." Looking at the second admission letter from the magic school he received, Sean fell into deep thought. There's a big problem in this magic world. Chapter 208 Phil's birthday. Wallowitz wants to flank us. "Let the line go higher so I can attack from below and cut their line," Sheldon instructed Leonard while controlling his kite as bait. Ron looked up at the kite in the sky. He was surprised that the 4 little Atticus were playing with it in a methodical way. He could vaguely see some tactical meaning. In his previous life, when he watched the drama about using kites to blow up bunkers, he thought it was made up. Now it seems to be feasible. Ron watched coldly and wondered if this thing would help with taxation. However, he thought that he had advanced drones in his hands, so this method seemed to be of little use, and he immediately lost interest. "Ron, you know women best. Do you know why Penny doesn't want his friends to know me?" Unfortunately, Leonard was not in the mood for the game, and he reacted very numbly to Sheldon's orders. Sheldon was anxious. "Focus on the game, Leonard. The heat of battle is coming, the dogs of war have been released, we must fight to the death." "That's a good question," Ron smiled. "I guess what you want to ask is, would a fashionable girl like you feel embarrassed to introduce your new nerdy boyfriend, who is less than 1.7 meters tall, lactose intolerant, and can elope to the moon by the reaction force of farting after eating a piece of cheese to your friends? Maybe Rajesh is right, maybe I embarrassed her." Leonard immediately fell down. "You're embarrassing me now. A grown man is actually worried about such boring things while flying a kite," Sheldon scolded. I'm sorry, but I can't shoot down the opponent's kite," Sheldon said skillfully, pulling the kite string back and forth. I'm scratched by the string, it hurts." Sheldon's use of repetition immediately reminded Ron of the So Cool video he had seen before, which made his eyelids twitch and his skin covered with goosebumps. "To be honest, if I didn't firmly believe that my mother had never cheated on me, and that Missy, who was born with you, looks like a family member, I really doubt whether you are my biological brother. How could a Cooper family give birth to a man like you?" Sheldon felt offended. "Hey, I'm manly, okay? I'm the most famous hero Sheldon in Azeroth. I have thwarted the Lich King's conspiracy time and time again. Yes, you are a famous knight in Azeroth, but in reality you are a loser who can't even get a TV back. By the way, you were also stripped of your pants," Ron retorted. "Ron, can you teach me how to be more manly?" Leonard wanted to make some changes, for example, football. Today Penny's friends came to her house to watch the Nebraska game. I don't understand why every time a goal is scored, she shouts that we won. Penny has never been on the court, right? I remember, I told you a long time ago that if you want to learn about football, just find Sheldon. He even designed a set of algorithms to introduce mathematics into football to direct the game. My father got the position of head coach of the Longhorns with it. As Ron spoke, Sheldon straightened up, and at this moment, for some reason, Howard's kite made a mistake, and Sheldon and Leonard immediately seized the opportunity to strangle Rajesh's kite. Yes. We won. Did you see that? Leonard, we won. Rajesh's kite is mine, Sheldon shouted excitedly, while Leonard was still frowning. Ron, I heard from Howard that your predictions are very accurate. And he really found a girlfriend you described to him. Do you think Penny and I will be together in the end? I mean the kind of marriage, and it would be best if we could have 2 babies. I feel like she is becoming less and less interested in me now. Oh, don't be wishful thinking. Penny's concentration doesn't last long at all. You can tell the result by analyzing the men she has dated in the past. The average shelf life of each man is no more than 5 months, so from the perspective of efficiency, you should stay at her place for a few more nights. Ron walked over and patted him on the shoulder. I think you two can be together in the end. If you feel that she is becoming less and less interested in you, have you ever thought about taking her to do something interesting? For example, instead of staying at home watching movies, or flying kites, I think taking her to target shooting would be a good choice. Target shooting? Which woman would like this kind of activity? All women, Ron replied. He couldn't think of any woman who would refuse such an invitation. Leonard secretly took note of Ron's suggestion and decided to go back and give it a try. Okay, I'll go back and try. Howard and the others are over there. Do you want to go back to the apartment with us? No, I have something else to do, Ron replied with a guilty conscience. Although he had not done anything unspeakable to Howard's wife, and everything was just a one-time meeting, from a certain perspective, he did cuckold Howard. Last night, he went back to the hotel with a gymnastics coach who looked exactly like Bernadette. They tried almost all the positions within the human imagination. The other party was indeed as soft as she said. Hope is not Bernadette, so Ron did not cheat on Howard, but the two look exactly the same, and they are the same actor in another world, so Ron really cuckolded him. Okay, Ron's mind is a little confused. Is this Schrodinger's green hat? Of course, Ron was not making excuses. He really had something to do. 3 days ago, he had already agreed to Claire's invitation to Phil's birthday party, and wisely rejected Sheldon's suggestion to bring along. However, when he first went to Uncle Pritchett's house and prepared to go to the party together in the evening, surprisingly, Mitchell was also there, carrying a toolbox. Hey, Mitchell, long time no see. What kind of plumber cosplay are you and Cam going to do? It is well known that Mitchell has a somewhat feminine personality and is not very good at maintenance work, so Ron teased. Ron, we did build something at home, a gift wrapping station. That sounds really gay. Pritchett took a sip of whiskey to calm down. Although his son has been publicly out for many years, he still occasionally treats him as a normal person. Mitchell rubbed his hands nervously. Dad, do you remember when I was 11 years old? You taught me boxing, but I gave up halfway. Of course, the moves you said you wanted to learn are all in musicals like West Side Story. Are fancy moves useful? If I have a dance battle with someone one day, I will let you know. Also you can tell me, so I can play music next to you and yell, stop fighting. Ron laughed. That, Mitchell became even more nervous. Do you still want to teach me now? What? Did you have a conflict with Zioka? How could that be? How could you guess that? Come on, living with a man. Pritchett was surprised. When my brother and I slept in bunk beds, we fought every day. I guess you have the same experience, right, Ron? Ron nodded in agreement. Yes, I am with George, but since he could no longer beat me after he was 7 years old, he has obviously become much more well-behaved than before. Zioka and I don't sleep in bunk beds. Mitchell spread his hands helplessly. Dad, I just want to learn some self-defense skills. I have no interest in what bed you sleep on. Pritchett quickly swallowed another gulp of wine. Remember which trick? Show me. Up, thumbs out, and then like this. Mitchell hesitated and punched the air a few times. Ron couldn't bear to watch that move. Let's just say that Mitchell's fighting ability is about the same as the other 3 in the nerdy scientist team, and lower than Rajesh. He and the other 4 tied together are not enough to fight Penny alone. You didn't fight very well, did you? Mitchell asked. Ron couldn't help but complain. No, it was actually too beautiful. If the robbers have the same orientation as you, you will definitely lose more than one thing. Hey, how about this? Pritchett suggested. Ron is the best agent in the IRS. Why don't you let him teach you? Really? Ron, can you help me? Mitchell looked at Ron, his eyes shining. Please, as long as you don't look at me like that, for the sake of our relationship, of course I can teach you. Ron said that he was a little overwhelmed by Mitchell's gaze. What do you want to learn? Muay Thai? Jiu-jitsu? Or Kung Fu? Ron, you'd better teach him the simplest things. Your things are too difficult for him. No one knows a son better than his father. Pritchett was not optimistic about Mitchell's learning ability. The simplest thing? That's the gun. It's the easiest and most convenient. Ron pulled the gun out of the holster, turned it on his finger and put it in Mitchell's hand. Just turn on the safety, aim, and then shoot. Uncle Pritchett, do you have any old bottles here? Let him try. No. No. Mitchell immediately threw the gun back into Ron's arms as if he had received a hot potato. I'm afraid of the sound of gunfire. I just want to learn some self-defense skills, then I have nothing to teach you. You can't learn anything else. Ron spread his hands. He had no choice. He had experienced Mitchell's level. He would rather go back to teach Penny. There was no choice. Pritchett could only go into battle himself. Okay, then I'll teach you a few simple jiu-jitsu moves. Now, come and hit me. Jay, are you really okay? Don't be stubborn. Ron was skeptical about this. Pritchett was already over 60 years old. He couldn't teach Mitchell how to lie on the ground and blackmail people, right? No problem. Your mom may not have told you that I was on the wrestling team when I was in school, Jay said with full fighting spirit. Come on, release the hatred in your heart. Come over and hit me. Dad, you know I never hated you, Mitchell said hypocritically. Remember that Halloween when I didn't let you dress up as Olivia, a female singer? Ron remembered the time when Sheldon wanted to dress up as Marie Curie. Well, it turned out that his brother was not the only one who wanted to dress up as a woman on Halloween. There was another one. Ah, Mitchell shouted and rushed over, but Jay used his strength to pull and push, and his strong arms directly strangled his neck. Nice naked choke, Ron exclaimed. At Jay's age, being able to complete this move is worthy of his respect. How is it? Very powerful, right? I learned it from the founder of Gracie Martial Arts, Jay said proudly. This is my trump card. Wait a minute, Claire called me. Ron interrupted Jay's self-praise and pressed the answer button. Hi, Claire, I'm at your dad's house now. What time does the party start? Oh. Thank God, it's not far away. Can you come over? I forgot to bring my credit card at Gray's electronics store, so I can't buy a gift for a Phil, of course, Ron said halfway, and suddenly stopped. Wait, can I know what gift you are going to buy for Phil? It won't happen to be an iPad, right? Wait, Ron, your gift for a Phil is an iPad. Claire was surprised and said, great, so I don't have to wait in line. Can you transfer your gift to me? Ron frowned. Of course, but my gift is given to you. What should I give? Hey. Wait. Jay, stop it. Mitchell is about to faint. No. He has fainted. Ron was only halfway through his words when Mitchell fell limp in Jay's arms. Oh no, Ron, come and help. Breathe. Mitchell, my good boy. Jay hurriedly put Mitchell flat. What? Claire was startled by the noise from Ron's side. What happened? Did Jay and Mitchell fight? Ron didn't know how to start for a moment. In short, Mitchell wanted to learn some self-defense skills, and Uncle Pritchett didn't control the strength well and strangled him. Don't worry, based on my experience, just let him lie down for a while and he'll be fine. Ron checked and found nothing serious. That's good, Claire breathed a sigh of relief. You can give him any other gift, depending on what you have. Anything is fine. No matter what you give him, I guarantee he will be happy. Really anything, of course. Okay then, Ron agreed. Anyway, he was not Phil's wife, and his gift didn't need to be the most important. Of course, according to etiquette, he certainly couldn't go empty-handed, but what did he have on him? Ron touched himself and happened to touch a cold metal object. At this time, Mitchell also woke up slowly. Ron's eyes rolled, but he had an idea. Mitchell, you just said that you have a gift wrapping station at home, right? How about we go back together now? Chapter 209 The Stolen Declaration of Independence. That's right, Ron's final birthday gift to Phil was a pistol, a Glock 18, a very good self-defense pistol, but it did scare Phil. It's understandable that a real estate salesman who used to be a cheerleader is afraid of guns, but Ron still can't figure out what Claire likes about him. Caroline still refuses to sell the cake shop, but Ron can no longer discuss this topic with her, so he can only leave the problem to her and Max to solve on their own, because he has a new mission, to go to Washington, the capital. I don't understand. According to what you said, when the Declaration of Independence was exhibited, it was surrounded by security and surveillance cameras. Under the 1-inch thick bulletproof glass were a bunch of sensors and thermal monitoring. If someone got too close, it would sound the alarm. When it is not on display, it will be lowered to a 4-foot thick security room made of cement and steel plates, equipped with electronic password locks and a biometric door control system. Ron took a sip of tea and paused. Under such strict surveillance, how useless are your people to let such an important thing go missing? Do you know how big an impact this will have? When Ron was talking, because of the emphasis on a certain word, his saliva sprayed all over the face of the FBI in front of him, but the other party had no intention of wiping it off. He let Ron spray these vicious words at them and lowered his head in shame. There was no way. They had caused too much trouble. As we all know, the United States is a country with a very shallow history, only a pitiful 200 years. In these pitiful 200 years, it would be very difficult to find something as the spiritual belief of this country. The Declaration of Independence can just become the spiritual consensus of this country, that is, the constitutional spirit of the United States. Unfortunately, this is one of the few material carriers that can prove the American spirit, but the original copy of the Declaration of Independence has been lost, and it is in full view of the public. No wonder the current president is so angry that he ordered all idle elite agents to gather here and investigate together. But then again, real elite agents are usually very busy and can't be idle, unless they are some guys who like to be lazy. In fact, this matter has not spread yet. The head of the exhibition hall security tried to remedy his image. We put out the copy as soon as possible and displayed it as the original, and all the guests who attended the banquet yesterday didn't know what happened. Really? You think you did a great job, right? Genius. Ron walked up to her unceremoniously and shouted at his face. The person in charge, like a child who had done something wrong, was taught a lesson and dared not breathe. Raise your heads. Gentlemen, raise your heads. If you lower your heads, could you please pick up the Declaration of Independence for me? Then just keep your heads down. Ron was so angry that he couldn't speak. Where's the surveillance? I want to see the surveillance. Are there any eyewitnesses at the scene? Or any other evidence? Our surveillance has been replaced. The person in charge continued quickly when he saw Ron's face change, but a part of it is still retained, just enough to see the suspect's face. There was a security guard at the scene, but he was electrocuted and doesn't remember anything. In addition, we found some bullet casings and are currently identifying them. Bullet casings. Ron was professionally sensitive and keenly noticed this word. Has there been a gunfight here? How many casualties did you have? In fact, except for the security guard who was electrocuted, no one was injured. This is also the most puzzling thing for us. Ron covered his face. He was completely desperate for this group of brainless idiots. For the first time, he realized Sherlock's despair for ordinary people. Don't you understand? There were two groups of people who came to steal the Declaration of Independence. And they were snatching it from each other, so one of them must have shot the other. Oh my God. I really wonder how you got to be the person in charge. His father is one of the directors of Citibank, the staff behind Ron whispered. Damn capitalist bastard, it should be hung on the street lamp. Ron almost didn't curse out loud. Okay, is there any other useful information? Tell me all at once, so I don't have to ask one by one. Well, about a week ago, we kept receiving warnings that someone was planning to steal the original copy of the Declaration of Independence. The person in charge hesitated for a moment, and probably the courage given to him by his capitalist father, he finally spoke. So you knew there was a possibility of theft a week ago. Why didn't you take precautions? Ron felt his blood pressure soar again. The person in charge continued to excuse himself. I thought someone was joking with us. You know, there are often bored people who do such pranks. Who would want to steal an old piece of paper with a Declaration of Independence written on it? Anyone who wants to shame the United States. Apart from anything else, Ron believed that the hiding in the mountains of Afghanistan must want to get it, and then swagger with it to wipe his ass in the video. Is the paper used to wipe the ass the Declaration of Independence? No. It's the face of the US government. This matter is definitely not a trivial matter. This is the suspect, we think. The staff member next to him quickly turned on the surveillance video to show Ron trying to help Dr. Chase introduced him as Mr. Brown, but this person is not on our invitation list. A cashier at a gift shop saw him and said that he looked very flustered at the time and tried to leave with a copy of the Declaration of Independence without paying. So your gift shop is still selling copies of the Declaration of Independence, right? Ron's mouth was almost crooked with anger. Tell me, who came up with such a genius idea? All the staff members cast their sympathetic eyes on the person in charge who had been scolded by Ron just now. He paid by credit card, and the bill was sent to Benjamin Gates. The clever staff member came to the rescue again and retrieved all the surveillance videos, the kind that can clearly see the face. Ron saw a very familiar and unexpected face. Ron scratched his ears in disbelief. What did you say the man's name was? Benjamin Gates, sir. Are you sure it's this name? Is this a real identity? Does this person have any record of immigrating from abroad before? Ron felt a little uneasy. It was another familiar celebrity face, which meant that, if nothing unexpected happened, he was likely involved in some particularly troublesome incident. After checking, the staff member replied, "No, sir, this is a Native American. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 210, The Legend of Freemasonry. Well, it's okay as long as it's not Yuri Orlov. To be honest, Ron was shocked when he saw this face. But knowing that this person is not Orlov is not enough. The owner of this face has acted in many movies and TV series. Ron needs to further narrow the scope. Is there any reliable information about this person now? In fact, this Gates family is very famous in our circle. I believe that this suspect comes from the family that has conspiracy theories about our founding fathers. The staff member obviously knows more about the situation than the person in charge. Ron casts his attention on this inconspicuous staff member. Conspiracy theory? Interesting. What kind of conspiracy theory is it? Ron expressed his interest in this gossip. With his intuition as an agent for many years, this conspiracy theory must be related to the suspect's motives. This is a very old legend. Many people think it is nonsense, but the Gates family has always believed that it is true. It was in 1832. Charles Carlo was the only one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence who was still alive. He was also a member of the secret organization Freemasonry. He knew he was dying, so he woke up his groom in the middle of the night and asked him to take him to the White House to meet Andrew Jackson because he had something urgent to tell the president. Ron listened fascinatedly. What did he tell the president? No, he didn't say anything because the president happened to be away that night, but he had a secret, so he could only tell this secret to one person, his groom, who was also the ancestor of the Gates family. So what kind of secret is that? A confused look appeared in the staff member's eyes. A treasure beyond the imagination of the world, so I can now assume that the people who stole the Declaration of Independence were a group of treasure hunters, right? Or two groups of treasure hunters? Things are becoming more and more interesting, but I have a question. Where did this treasure come from? Ron immediately found the group of people who were most likely to steal the Declaration of Independence from the staff's story, which really relieved him. Although he was not interested in the brainwashing rhetoric of equality and freedom, it was an important cultural relic. It was a pity to use it to wipe his ass. The staff story continued. For thousands of years, tyrants, pharaohs, emperors, and warlords have been fighting for this treasure. Every time the owner changed, the treasure would become more. Until one day, the Crusaders who were on the Eastern expedition found it in the underground of Solomon's temple. Those knights believed that this treasure should not be owned by someone, even the emperor, so they brought the treasure back to Europe and called themselves the Knights Templar, which was the predecessor of Freemasonry. In the next century, they secretly transported the treasure to the United States. Ron's mind was a little confused when he heard this. Templar Knights? What the hell? He clearly remembered that the last time he heard the word Templar was when he was playing Assassin's Creed. What is the treasure? It can't be a golden apple, right? Now that we have this thing, what will happen next? You can't let him use a revolver to fight aliens, right? Please, let me go. Not every alien is as stupid as in Marvel movies, who have advanced technology but insist on fighting with humans in close combat. Fortunately, The staff's subsequent narration dispelled his doubts. Our founding fathers, Freemasons George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Paul Jewell, knew that they had to ensure that the treasure would not fall into the hands of the British, so they hid the treasure again. The last Freemason who knew the truth entrusted the clue to the groom, the ancestor of the Gates family. What do you think of this legend? What do you think? A group of robbers hid the wealth they had plundered from other civilizations from ancient times to the present, and finally brought it to the United States, and then asked me what I thought? Under normal circumstances, Ron would definitely answer, "This is not a decent thing to do." But today, in front of this inconspicuous staff member, Ron restrained his temper well, because he accidentally saw a strange symbol on the ring worn by the staff member. The symbol is exactly the same as the symbol printed on the $100 bill, called the all-seeing eye. Ron's pupils shrank. This is the symbol of Freemasonry. This person is a senior member of Freemasonry. Ron has traveled through time for so long, but this is the first time he has come into contact with such a powerful and mysterious organization. What a joke. This is the Freemasonry. Legend has it that a mysterious organization that manipulated the Paris Commune movement, the First and Second World Wars in the shadows, and there are even rumors that the actual controllers of the United States are all Freemasons. And the Jews are just scapegoats and agents pushed out by them. Although Ron has not been able to get in touch with too many high-level things so far as his actual feelings are concerned, this rumor is likely to be true. He even knows that in an unknown corner of the United States, there is a mysterious intelligence agency independent of the government hidden in a small winery, and it has a close connection with a tailor shop in the UK. This was told to him by Mr. London Fulmouth's brother. In other words, although he was just a staff member, if he wanted, the stupid person in charge was just an ant that he could easily crush to death. It sounds good, but it's obviously a bit nonsense. Ron shrugged his shoulders pretending to be relaxed, but this legend is still useful. At least it can let me know where I should start. Who is in charge of the FBI here? An elegant old man raised his hand. Me. Ron had a toothache again, because the old man wore the same ring as the staff member, and he was also a Freemason. Please. Is this interesting? Is it popular for big guys to pretend to be pigs and eat tigers now? Ron couldn't help but speak more politely. I need you to take people to Gates' house first to find out if there are any clues. If he wants to steal the Declaration of Independence because of the clues in the legend, then I must know what the clues are, so that I can know what he plans to do next. No problem. In fact, I am planning to do so. Any other instructions, sir? The old man agreed cheerfully. Don't call me sir, you are the ones in charge. I am just a lousy worker, I don't deserve you to call me that. Ron yelled in his heart. He was beginning to regret getting involved in this matter. No, there are no other orders for the time being. If there are any, it is that I hope everyone can have a good rest and take care of their health. The case will definitely be solved, but before that, I hope everyone can at least stay physically and mentally happy. Chapter 211 Masonic Treasures. Ron has been in the industry for many years, and his tone has never been so cowardly. However, Ron does not think there is anything wrong with this behavior. He believes that this is the flexibility unique to an agent. The FBI agent who had just left because of Ron's order turned back and said, "Report to the commander. We just found out that Gates once paid to rent a house in Washington. Do you want to go now?" Of course, Ron agreed before he finished speaking. Gates's lair was rented in a small apartment not far from the airport. After the FBI agents confirmed that there was no danger inside, Ron and the old Masonic man went up together. Unexpectedly, there were no guns or weapons inside, but a clean room made of plastic cloth. Now we have some results. Ron pulled open the plastic sheet and made a gesture of invitation. I guess they must have thought that there was some secret map written in invisible ink on the Declaration of Independence, so they wanted to find a way to make the invisible ink visible here. Seriously, have you never done this to the Declaration of Independence? No, you know this is an important cultural relic, so we have always been very careful in preserving it. Well, you may have missed some important clues because of this. I am now more and more convinced that the legendary treasure really exists. Ron walked to the table. What's the matter with these letters? Let me check it out. The staff turned on the computer, found it. When Franklin was 15 years old, he pretended to be a middle-aged man named Cyrus Duguid and wrote 14 letters to his brother's newspaper. That's it. Why did he do this? Is it just for fun? Ron said in surprise. Or there is something wrong with these letters themselves. Let me guess. There must be no mention of treasure in these letters. They are just talking about boring topics, right? That's right, the staff nodded, and the old man asked with interest, why, have you thought of something again? Well, Ron nodded, I guess Mr. Franklin did this for more than just fun, and the fact that these letters appeared here means that Mr. Gates also thinks they are related to the treasure. The old Masonic man praised him more and more. So what are you going to do? Should I continue to let my men look for old Mr. Gates? Of course we have to find him, but the key is not to ask him anything, but to keep calm on the surface and secretly monitor him. Think about it, we have now determined that there are two groups of people who stole the Declaration of Independence, and one of them is a hardline armed with guns. What will they do when they lose the clues? These treasure hunters are not restricted by various rules like our agents. They will do everything they can. I believe that they will soon start to consider some tricks. And we don't need to go through so much trouble to chase the suspects. As long as we lock on to old Mr. Gates, we don't have to do anything, just wait quietly. Ron's eyes became sharper. If this is a game, I want to cheat and go directly to the last level. What do you think? Of course, it's a smart move. Just like I said at the beginning, everything is based on you, the old man agreed happily. 5 days later, Gates, who looks exactly like Orlov, took the newly joined Dr. Chess and his little follower to Philadelphia to find Cyrus Duguid's letter again. According to their speculation, the mysterious code they found on the back of the Declaration of Independence should be the Ottendorf code, a code that uses numbers to represent letters in a certain letter and then forms sentences. Then, based on the new clues, they came to New York. The treasure hunter with the ramen hair handed the pipe and the document tube to Gates. The meerschaum pipe and the Declaration of Independence are yours now. Now, tell me, where's my treasure? It's right here. The map says there are two E's at the wall. Here at the wall, Gates pointed to Wall Street behind him. Wall Street used to be a wall. It was the main entrance used by the Dutch to defend against the British. It was a street called here, with two E's. Later, this street was renamed Broadway when the British came. Yes, the map is pointing to this place. After saying this, Gates grabbed the two things promised by the treasure hunter and was about to leave, but was stopped by the other party. Wait, is that all the map says? Of course that's all. Well, if you're right, then I want you to take me there. Don't object in a hurry. The treasure hunter smiled confidently and motioned with his chin to Gates to look across the road. Let's see who's over there first. The rear door of the SUV opposite was opened, and old Mr. Gates was tied to the front seat with tape, and even his mouth was covered with tape, blocking his mouth, so he could only make sounds. Do you have anything else to tell me now? The treasure hunter nodded proudly, and the door was closed again. Okay, Trinity Church. We have to go to Trinity Church, which is the final location indicated by the map. Gates had no choice but to hand over the clues he had obtained. Great, great. Why don't you ask Dr. Chess and your little follower to come with you? I believe they are nearby. The treasure hunter patted his shoulder with satisfaction. At the same time, the same conversation was taking place in the Starbucks across the street, but the old Masonic man patted Ron on the shoulder and said, very good, great, you found them with almost no effort. The old man was certainly not a fool. Ron's attitude was so obvious that he certainly knew that his identity had been exposed. So okay, I'm the boss. I won't act anymore. The old man directly revealed his identity as a third-level Freemason. This identity is very interesting, and it is almost the highest level within the Freemasonry. This shows how much the Freemasonry values this treasure. However, after a few days, Ron found that the old man was still easy to get along with. Ron ate a cheap hot dog while observing the opposite side. It's not hard to guess. If these treasure hunters read more books, they will come up with some new tricks instead of just kidnapping and threatening. The Masonic old man's eyes were full of admiration. Then when do you think we should take action? Don't worry, just follow them from a distance. After such a long time, they even resorted to kidnapping. I guess they must have found the location of the final treasure. We just need to surround that place and catch them when they come out, or if you are worried that there will be other exits below, for the sake of safety and to minimize casualties, I suggest that I follow them alone. The treasure hunter took Gates to the car and prepared to set off. Ron made a gesture, and a car ambushed nearby immediately followed. The Masonic old man's originally cloudy eyes suddenly became sharp. 3 pieces, what? Ron was a little confused by the old man's sudden words. I will allow you to take at most 3 treasures from that treasure. The rest are all national treasures, the old man said seriously. Haha, what are you talking about? I don't understand you. Ron laughed dryly twice, trying to cover it up, but the old man still stared at him seriously. Do you need me to remind you about the Buddha statue you brought back from Thailand? Okay, Ron raised his hand in surrender. Even the Thailand incident was dug up. It seemed that the other party had checked him carefully. I promised to take at most 3 things, so can we set off now? Ron agreed verbally, but he didn't agree in his heart. I still have storage space. I don't believe that you can find it if I put the things in the storage space. No problem, let's go now. The old man raised his hand and made the business car slowly stop at the door of Starbucks. Trinity Church. Gates finally found the entrance hidden behind the tomb through the last hint, and when he and the treasure hunter went in together, Ron followed them to the cave entrance. No way, such a small hole. Ron looked at the hole vacated by the coffin and complained to the doctor. In the end, he gritted his teeth and crawled in. Then, just like what was written in the Peach Blossom Spring, it was very narrow at first, but only people could pass through it. After climbing for about 10 meters, they finally came to a huge deep pit. There were wooden stairs going down along the pit. Ron stood on it and could even hear the voices of the treasure hunters below. Gates pointed down and said, "Look, there is an elevator over there. Let's go down there." How did those people build such a project with primitive tools? A treasure hunter exclaimed. Just like they built the pyramids and the Great Wall, yes, aliens helped them. It is unlikely that aliens were involved. After all, no evidence has been found to prove that aliens have ever come to Earth and helped primitive people build these great projects. I still believe that these should be the crystallization of the wisdom of the great working people. What do you think? Ron didn't know when he had mixed into the treasure hunters and directly interrupted the discussion. Never mind, let's go. Treasure hunter Teomu took 2 steps forward, then suddenly realized something was wrong, turned around abruptly, and quickly pulled out his gun. Who are you? Bang! Ron shot the treasure hunter's gun away just as he raised it halfway. Did your mother teach you that pointing a gun at someone is very rude? Ron pointed the gun at the treasure hunter's head, and before asking someone's name, it's best to introduce yourself first. This is the most basic courtesy of a gentleman. My name is Bang. Ron had already pulled the trigger when the treasure hunter was halfway through his words. Sorry, I'm not interested in knowing the name of a dead person. The treasure has been found, and these treasure hunters can basically be defined as criminals. From then on, every breath they breathe is a waste of taxpayers' money. For economic reasons, Ron directly gave it a quick death. The treasure hunters men saw that things were not going well, and they rushed to attack Ron from the left and right at the same time. One of them hugged Ron from behind, and the other immediately rushed to the gun in his hand, trying to take it away. But no matter how fast they moved, how could they be faster than Ron? Bang! Ron quickly shot the big man who was trying to grab the gun in front of him, and at the same time, his body was hugged by the treasure hunter behind him. But what does it matter? Ron stomped hard on the treasure hunter's feet, and the latter fell to the ground screaming, holding his toes and screaming. But just after he screamed, Ron stuffed the gun barrel into his mouth. Say goodbye to this beautiful world, baby ugh. The treasure hunter just whimpered, and his head exploded like a watermelon. Bang! Blood splashed all over the woman next to him. Ron swung the revolver, and 3 shells and 2 bullets fell into Ron's hands. Ron threw away the shells and put them into the magazine along with 3 rounds of bullets. He swung it again, and the magazine returned to its original position. The pistol was ready to be fired at any time and was put back into the holster. The most terrifying thing was that the whole process took only 1 second. Everyone knew what this meant. It meant that Ron could take the life of anyone here at any time. Hello, beautiful lady, I think you must be Dr. Chase, Ron greeted while putting his hand on his waist and sizing up the other 3 men eagerly. I'm IRS Agent Ron. I've been ordered to retrieve the original copy of the Declaration of Independence and rescue the hostages. I want to know if you have been coerced by any of these 3 people. Gates and his henchmen were so scared that they winked at Dr. Chase, who said quickly, No, we're not. We are in the same group. The 3 you just killed are the bad guys. There are 8 of them on the ground. They protected the Declaration of Independence with me, and we also found a treasure behind it, which is here. Wait, how can I believe you? I know, I have sent those 8 people to see God. This is a church, and I think they can reach their destination faster. Ron directly displayed his ID. Dr. Chase was finally relieved when he saw Ron's ID, but he still insisted on his principles. "Okay, I believe you, but please forgive me for not being able to give this thing to you yet. I have to send it back to the museum myself. You said the treasure is down there." Ron jumped forward and jumped onto the elevator. "Take me down to have a look?" Gates was speechless. He put the torch on the brazier in front of him and lit it. The remaining fuel in the brazier immediately flowed along the ditch and ignited all the other braziers. The firelight immediately illuminated the entire treasure room, and then the light was reflected back to Ron's eyes by various gold products, almost blinding him. FXXK, Ron couldn't help but burst out a swear word. How much are these things worth? Where the firelight shone, there was a treasure room as big as a football field, filled with all kinds of treasures. Chapter 212, Ron's Absence. Of course, Ron couldn't have taken only 3 items. In fact, he put all the Chinese treasures he saw in the underground treasure into the storage space. Then he picked up 3 items from the precious treasures on the ground and took them out. These were the rewards promised to him by the Freemasons. The Chinese treasures that Ron brought out were sent to China by Orlov on a smuggling ship not long after and donated anonymously to a museum. However, just as Ron was driving and thought he could finally go back to Los Angeles to relax for a while and be a salary thief, another uninvited call came in. Ron looked at the number and it was another person he couldn't refuse. "Let me guess, Mycroft, Sherlock must have caused you some trouble again, right?" Ron said with some gloating. He finally couldn't help but want to commit a perfect crime. "Sherlock may have this idea, but I believe it is definitely not now. At least he will not do it before Moriarty is caught. I want to tell you something else. Have you watched the news recently? It's about London." "I don't know, let me see." "You know, as an American, I always like to pay attention to domestic affairs. Instead of asking me to check the news, why don't you tell me directly what happened in London?" Ron connected the phone to the car and continued driving while talking casually. "The hospital where Owen Shaw was hospitalized was attacked by terrorists last week. It was his brother, Deckard Shaw, who did it. A total of nearly 50 people were killed and injured. Before leaving, he threatened the doctor to take good care of his brother." Although Mycroft tried to make his tone sound calm, Ron still heard a hint of anger from it. Due to the natural incompatibility between Britain and the United States, Ron still smiled unkindly. "Congratulations, you are in trouble. Dyke is a ruthless man. If you don't use the tailor shop, it will be difficult for you to catch him. Do you need my help? For the sake of our friendship, I can give you a 15% discount." "No, I don't plan to ask you for help." McIff's tone was still calm, which made Ron feel a little bad. Wasn't the emotion in his tone just now also gloating? "I just called to inform you. According to our intelligence, he should have smuggled into the United States now. Congratulations, this trouble is now yours. I guess he is going after you." McIff's tone was indescribably relaxed and happy. "You know that I am in charge of the authority of some high-end intelligence agencies, so because of our friendship for so many years, I ask you, do you need help? I can give you a 15% discount." At the same time, in the FBI headquarters building in Los Angeles, the subordinate who submitted a resignation report to him, that is, Toretto's ex-girlfriend, had just been sent away. Back in the office, Hobbs found an uninvited guest who was unscrupulously browsing confidential information on his computer. Hobbs habitually reached for his waist, intending to take out the same model M500 revolver as Ron to give this uninvited guest a blow, but he didn't expect to touch nothing. His holster was hanging on the hanger behind the man who was using the computer. He left in a hurry and forgot to bring it with him. Hobbs just made a little sound, trying to remind the man that he was in his position, but the other party immediately made a gesture to silence him. "Wait a moment, so what if he doesn't bring a gun? As long as he's not a pervert like Ron. Hobbs is confident that he can handle it." "You must not be a technician here. You'd better tell me right away, who are you? Otherwise, I will cut your finger into 6 sections and stuff it into your asshole." "Agent Hobbs?" "Right." The magnetic British accent sounded, and the man had no intention of lifting his butt from Hobbs's office chair. "That's right, you don't want to hack into my computer, you're walking into Tiger's den, kid." Hobbs continued to move forward 2 steps, about to enter the melee attack range. "You are arrested. Listen, I'm here to find the gang that hurt my brother." The other party continued to sit on the chair, not moving at all, but the momentum on his body made Hobbs feel a sense of oppression. He had felt this kind of oppression from Ron before, and it was not pleasant. "There has never been any gang. There's only one person who got your brother, and he is standing in front of you." Hobbs shamelessly took all the credit on himself, as if this would make his momentum rise a few points. Of course, it may also be out of the need to protect witnesses. "What the lady just said is right, you really can't lie." The man in the shadow pulled out a USB flash drive from the computer, and all the information he wanted had been stored in it. Bang! Seeing that Hobbs was about to touch his holster, the man suddenly kicked over the disk with his foot, and the whole disk fell on Hobbs. Hobbs quickly raised his arm to block it, but he didn't expect that this move would hit the other party's hand. The man stood up, pressed on the table that hit Hobbs, and turned his whole body in the air. He kicked Hobbs in the head with a beautiful whip kick, and Hobbs was kicked and flew backwards, breaking the glass. The man also showed his face from the shadows. If Ron was here, he would definitely call out his name immediately. Deckard Shaw. But in Hobbs's view, he was just another person with the same face as Arthur, Ron's subordinate, but with a completely different aura. Deckard Shaw was relentless. After a successful strike, he took advantage of Hobbs's unstable footing and immediately hit Hobbs's stomach with a knee strike. While Hobbs was bent under the force, he hit him with a left hook followed by a right hook. Hobbs was stunned for a moment. Fortunately, Hobbs' muscles were not trained in vain, and they provided good protection for his body. Although Hobbs was beaten badly, he was not actually hurt too much. While Deke was busy attacking his head, he hit Deke in the stomach with an uppercut, and the huge force threw Deke away. Of course, Deke was not easy to mess with. He rolled on the ground, jumped up quickly, and pushed his toes on the ground, and fought with Hobbs again. The two of them fought each other for several times, and finally Hobbs seized the opportunity, grabbed Deke's collar, and lifted him up. "Ah!" Hobbs screamed like a barbarian, and Deke in his hand was like a heavy sack. He smashed it hard on the desk, and the glass desk was immediately smashed into pieces. "Damn technician, you lose." Hobbs was proud, but before he could finish his words, his legs suddenly felt cold, and then there was a sharp pain. Deke actually held a broken glass on the ground in her hand like a dagger, and took advantage of his unpreparedness to cut two deep wounds on her legs, then jumped up hard, grabbed the chandelier above his head and smashed it on Hobbs' bald head. Crash! Hobbs was knocked to the ground. But the place where he lay was not far from his gun. Bang! 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 Hobbs used the sofa as a cover and shot a string of bullets at Ike, while the female subordinate who was about to leave downstairs also rushed back to the office and outflanked Ike from another angle while firing. Just when both of them thought they had it all figured out, the substitute teacher took out a round plate from his arms, threw it at their feet, and then quickly rolled behind the sofa and buckled the entire sofa onto himself. MD. This madman was actually an anti-personnel mine. Be careful. Elena. Hobbs didn't have time to think about it, and shouted, holding the female subordinate, "Don't jump downstairs." Bang! The first sound was the sound of a mine exploding, and Hobbs' entire office was blown to pieces. Bang! The second sound was the sound of Hobbs holding the female subordinate and hitting the roof of the car downstairs, and a huge human-shaped dent was smashed on the roof of the car. Ah! The female subordinate groaned in pain, but the pain was much lighter than expected. She moved her arms and was able to move freely. She pointed at the roof of the car and climbed up, only to find Hobbs under her. "Hobbs, are you okay?" Hobbs had already been knocked unconscious by the huge impact of the two people. The next day, Ron saw Hobbs, who was wrapped in bandages like a mummy, in the hospital. "Hey, man, I swear, you are now the most fashionable dress I have ever seen since I met you." Ron came to the bedside and continued to tease with gloating. "To be honest, how does it feel to be punished by the substitute teacher? I didn't expect that your fashion taste would be punished. I think this is worth it." Unexpectedly, before Hobbs could talk back, the little girl sitting next to him was unhappy. She jumped up from the sofa and kicked Ron's leg hard. "My dad wasn't beaten up. He was just attacked by a villain. My dad is the best agent in the world, the best agent in the world," Ron mocked, not even sparing the child. "Your so-called best agent in the world is just someone who was beaten up like a mummy, lying in a hospital bed, and can only live on little girl's jelly, watching the crude version of the Hulk filmed in the last century to kill time." "Hey, don't say it, the Hulk on TV really looks like your dad, with the same muscles all over his body, but he was beaten up like a dog." Ron pointed at the TV and said, "The earliest version of the movie Hulk in the 1970s was playing on TV, which was also the lowest version of all versions. This version of the Hulk was replaced by a bodybuilder who painted his whole body green, without any special effects. He held up a car that was obviously made of paper and smashed it everywhere, but he was still beaten up like a dog by the villain. Just like Hobbs lying on the bed. "Dad, who is this guy? Why is he so annoying?" The little girl pouted her lips angrily and turned around. "Can I borrow your gun to make a hole in his body? I'm Ron, and your dad is also defeated by me, you know." The little girl shook her head. "Of course not. I said that I will not give you your first gun until you are 16 years old. Let this guy go for now, and you can deal with him when you grow up. Go buy a bottle of Coke for Dad first, how about it?" "Dad has something to say to this uncle," Hobbs boasted shamelessly, and quickly said that before Ron exposed him, he found an excuse to send the little girl away. "Hey. I can't believe you never mentioned me to your daughter." Ron sat on the side of Hobbs' bed with dissatisfaction. "Hey. Get out of the way, that's my leg," Hobbs screamed in pain. "Aren't you curious about who made me like this? Do you need to guess?" Ron spread his hands. "Who else could it be besides Deckard Shaw? Among the people I know, there are only a few besides me who can deal with you." Ron stretched out both hands in front of him, checked, and felt that it was not enough, so he borrowed Hobbs's intact hand to count it together, but it still was not enough. Just as he was about to take off his shoes, he was stopped by Hobbs. "Okay, you don't have to check, I know there are many more people." "Okay." Hobbs was unhappy. "Do you know why he came back? Isn't this nonsense? What other reason could it be except because of his brother?" Ron unceremoniously opened the snacks on Hobbs's table and stuffed them into his mouth, as if he was at home. "Yes, that's right. We almost destroyed half of London in order to catch it." "Correction," Ron interrupted quickly. "It's you, not us. You are too stupid. You caught Owen and he played him like a monkey. It only took me one day to beat him to the point where he couldn't take care of himself. In fact, I received a call from Micklef on the way back yesterday. I heard that Owen is still lying in bed and has to rely on others to pee." Ron kept talking and didn't stop eating snacks while talking. Soon, he cleared all the snacks on the table, leaving only a jelly that had just been torn open, which was snatched back by Hobbs. "Hey, at least leave me one. This is my favorite strawberry flavor." A grown man actually likes to eat strawberry-flavored jelly. Ron pouted in disgust. "No matter how you look at it, strawberry jelly doesn't match Hobbs's body shape, right?" "Listen." Hobbs ate the jelly and regained his serious expression. "I came back this time for revenge. Revenge on all of us. You must inform Toretto and the others to be careful, and your family. This time you must help me catch him back. Don't worry, Dyke is different from his brother." Ron stood up and walked around Hobbs' bed, and continued slowly until he was sure that there were no other extra snacks. "He is still a guy with a bottom line. He will only attack those who hurt his brother, that is, you, me, and Toretto and his gang. Of course, the main target should be you. In fact, this attack is also very illustrative. As early as a month ago, I received the information that Dyke had smuggled into the United States, but I waited for a long time, but he didn't come. Unexpectedly, I had just left Los Angeles and he took action. So it seems that he is still a very wise guy and knows how to pick on the weak." Hobbs nodded in agreement, but immediately realized that something was wrong. "Wait, who do you say is the weak persimmon?" Chapter 213 Pre-War Meeting. Before the discussion on who is the persimmon came to a conclusion, the hospital welcomed two new guests, Arthur and Hank, which made Ron's lungs explode. "Can anyone tell me what happened? Is Mummy the most popular costume this year? But it's still several months away from Halloween." Ron looked at his subordinates who were wrapped like mummies like Hobbs. Arthur was also wearing a neck brace, which was embarrassing. "So, these were also done by Deckard Shaw, right?" The two nodded together. Arthur could only move his head slightly because of the neck brace, but it was obvious that he was nodding. "Look at you, you have a face exactly like Deckard Shaw. Why are you treated like this? I'm really ashamed of your face." Ron was furious. Hank said ashamedly, "Don't blame Arthur. He became like this because he wanted to save me. Someone sent a package to the base with a bomb inside. If Arthur hadn't found something wrong and snatched the package and threw it out, I would be a pile of minced meat on the floor of the office now." Ron nodded. It was really not Arthur's fault that he was useless. Facing such a situation, this was already the best result. But before Ron could speak again, a group of heady laughter came from behind him. The source was Hobbs. Hobbs gloated and said, "Ha ha ha, Ron, your base was also blown up. How does it feel?" I guess it must be great. Ron finally came back to his senses from Hank's words and shouted to the sky, FXXK. My base. Ron was very angry and the consequences were serious. 2 hours later, in the hospital's conference room, all of Ron's men, Andy, Giselle, the Smiths, Carl, Hank and Arthur in wheelchairs, and Toretto's group were all present. In addition, there's Hobbs who is also in a wheelchair. If these people did not look murderous, one would have thought it was a patient care meeting. On the big screen in the conference room was a photo of Deckard Shaw, which made Arthur look a little uncomfortable, because Carl had just asked, "Is this your twin brother?" Deckard Shaw, a former British Special Forces assassin, is the kind of person that the government will never admit to hiring. Hobbs just began to explain when he was interrupted by Toretto. An underground operative. It's worse than that. They created a monster, Hobbs said angrily. They originally used Deckard Shaw to do bad things, which is commonly known as white gloves. Later, they felt that he knew too much and became an obstacle, so they wanted to kill him. Then what? Giselle asked. Then, they sent out 20 elites to try to make him retire, but they were all killed. Since then, there has been no news about Zio, and no one knows where he's hiding, Hobbs continued to explain. What he didn't say was that among the people who were chasing Beck at the time, there was even a senior agent from the tailor shop. Of course, with Hobbs' level, he might not be able to access this level of intelligence. Therefore, even Ron felt a headache. He took out his mobile phone, edited 2 text messages and sent them out. He now needed some off-site assistance. Then how can we find him? Toretto asked. Hobbs spread his hands helplessly. The official answer is that you can't find him, you can only wait for him to find you. MI6 spent 6 years and failed to find him. He's a bastard who will do anything to achieve his goal. So I ask that from now on, you at least act in groups of 2. No, Toretto did not accept Hobbs's advice. His eyes were full of hatred. He killed Han. And he almost killed my family. Today, an old friend who hadn't seen him for a long time came to visit him, and he also wants to put me in a body bag, so I will definitely take good care of him when I am discharged from the hospital and make him wish he had never been born. But before that, my official answer is, don't worry about it, Hobbs persuaded. Toretto shook his head. You know I can't do it. I can't do it either, so I'll take over this matter from now on. Ron finished texting, put away his phone and stood up. From now on, this case is under my control. Ron put his hand on Hobbs' shoulder. From now on, you just rest well in the hospital. I promise to catch that bastard for you. Hobbs looked up. Promise me one thing. What? If you catch him, kick his ass for me. Of course, no problem. Ron turned and walked to the door. Then, adjourn the meeting. Everyone go back and prepare your luggage. Maybe we need to go on a long trip. Brothers. Ron's 2 text messages were sent to Anonymous and Peggy respectively. The former helped him apply for full authority to arrest Deckard Shaw, but the condition was that he needed to help the military find the person who invented the system that can monitor all mobile phones and cameras, and can find anyone in the world through cameras through algorithms. Ron certainly knew about this amazing technology, but he knew that the real developer of this technology should be Peggy, not Ramsey as mentioned by the anonymous person. He needed to know whether his actions would have an impact on Peggy. In response, Peggy replied, don't worry about my technology. In fact, I put a Trojan horse in Ramsey's computer, and she hasn't found it yet. That stupid girl still naively thought that this algorithm was invented by her, on the outskirts of Los Angeles, an abandoned old warehouse, for some reason, became brightly lit again, but because no one lived nearby, no one noticed the abnormality here. A cool-looking bumblebee drove to the door and stopped. As soon as Ron got out of the car, a small red dot appeared on his body. Relax, my guys. Ron opened his hands, indicating that he had no weapons in his hands and he had no ill intentions. I am the guest invited by Anonymous. Hey, is this how you treat guests? Anonymous? Yes, he's my guest. A handsome old man with a kind smile walked out of the warehouse and waved to the roof. The little red dot on Ron's body disappeared immediately. I'm sorry, my friend, I was drinking beer just now. They all know that I don't like to be disturbed when I drink, so I was a little nervous. Can you forgive them? Thank you, I knew you would forgive them. Before Ron could say anything, Anonymous hooked his neck affectionately and walked into the warehouse. Would you like to have a drink with me? In the warehouse, all the large machinery that originally existed here disappeared, and were replaced by various weapons and equipment and electronic instruments. Anonymous walked to an oak barrel and took a glass of beer, Priest beer airlifted from Belgium. Would you like a glass? To be honest, I think these priests are the most enjoyable group of people in the world. Chapter 214 Airborne Plan. No, I'm the son of Lone Star, and I only drink Lone Star beer. Ron shook his head. I know you will prepare it for me, so why not just take it out? Well, you guessed it right. Anonymous took out a half-dozen small boxes from the back of the barrel, and inside was Ron's favorite Lone Star beer. Ron opened a bottle without hesitation and clinked his glass with Anonymous's. Cheers. I hope I never have to see you again. Anonymous pretended to be lost and said, am I so disgusting in your eyes? I thought you would want to be closer to me. No, I'm not the kind of person you think. Ron held the beer and cautiously kept a distance from Anonymous. If you really have a strong demand in that regard, I am willing to introduce my cousin Mitchell to you and let him take you to the bar. He married another man a few years ago and adopted a Vietnamese girl. If I need it, I will contact you. Anonymous squinted his eyes, causing Ron to feel a chill. This old glass. Well, as long as you need me, I am willing to help you contact my cousin at any time, but you know, I definitely didn't come to you today to discuss your sexual orientation. Ron threw away the empty bottle and opened another bottle of beer. I'm here to solve the problem. You know which one I'm talking about. Okay, I know you are here for Deckard Shaw, right? The anonymous man walked into the factory. The strength of Shaw is that he knows how to hide himself, escape pursuit, and kill people without being seen. He is a real British ruffian, but to be honest, I don't care about him. What I really care about is you. The anonymous man turned and pointed his finger at Ron. Because you and I can help each other and get what we both want. No, we want different things. Ron shook his head. I only want one Deckard Shaw, but you want the Eye of God, right? The Eye of God was developed by Peggy and implanted into other people's computers with a Trojan horse, causing a hacker named Ramsey to mistakenly believe that it was a magical program developed by himself, which could crack all cameras in the world and find the target through algorithms. I'm not here to listen to your long speech, and I'm not interested in any so-called new technology, Ron said hypocritically. If he wanted a thing, he could just ask Peggy for it. Why was it so troublesome? But in order to protect Peggy's safety, he could only pretend to play along. Now tell me where this thing is, I'll get it back for you, and then you tell me where Zio is, and is the deal done? Okay, deal. The anonymous person stretched out his hand to Ron. Without your permission, in your name, I called everyone who might be useful here. I think you don't mind letting them listen together, right? The warehouse door reopened, and a row of sports cars drove in. It was Toretto's gang and his remaining men who got out. Our intelligence says that Ramsey will be transferred by a convoy. They will pass through the Bizarre Mountains. If they successfully pass that section of the road and reach the end, Ramsey will be as good as dead. Due to various shameful political reasons, the U.S. military cannot carry out any rescue work. Let me tell you, Ron pushed the anonymous man aside and walked to the map. Look, there's only one way out here. There are cliffs on both sides. A convoy passes through here surrounded by troops. It sounds like committing suicide. This is simply the stupidest idea I have ever heard of. Roman muttered in a low voice. He had suffered at the hands of Ron and did not dare to openly oppose Ron. That's right, Ron suddenly glared at him and scared him. He quickly took a defensive fighting posture, but Ron had no time to deal with him. So, after discussing with Mr. Anonymous, I have a bold plan. We will attack from here. Ron pointed on the defense map, which immediately attracted strong opposition from the soldiers under the anonymous man. No, you can't attack from there. That's the most tight point in their entire defense system. That's right. There are at least 3 military bases nearby. Roman also echoed the objection. He was not afraid of being beaten at this moment. Compared with being beaten, he was more afraid of death. Listen, soldier, do your job well. We don't need you to give orders here. Ron scolded the soldier who disturbed him and glared at Roman fiercely. And here, I am the boss now. I am not like Toretto who likes to play democracy. You have to listen to me, understand? After saying that, Ron also gestured with his fist at him, and Roman immediately shut his mouth wisely. So how are you going to get there? Genius, the soldier said unconvinced. Of course, airborne. Ron thought of the original shot in the movie, and the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. What? Roman opened his mouth in surprise, and the soldier who had questioned him opened his mouth in shock. Crazy, you are all a bunch of crazy, and Toretto applauded approvingly. He and Ron thought of the same thing. Ron clapped his hands. Then let's get busy. I know you're all masters. Now, you can choose any car here. Reduce the weight, Replace the shock absorbers, and especially don't forget to install a parachute that is strong enough to bear their weight, and convert them into babies that can fall from the sky." Everyone immediately cast their malicious eyes on the cars in the warehouse. Being able to modify these classic cars is also an interesting thing for a car technician, and Ron turned his attention back to the anonymous person. "In addition, I need some air support, such as AC 130, or AC 10, no, that's impossible. I said that due to some treaties, you can't get any support from the US military. I will never send fighter jets to support you. If there were no such restrictions, I would directly send paratroopers instead of you." Anonymous angrily rejected Ron's request, but Ron didn't have much hope. "Then can you help me find a larger glider? I will modify it myself, and then let your plane tow it behind." 3 days later, in the Bazet Mountains, the sky was clear and clear. 2 large C-17 transport planes and the small tails behind them flew over the mountains. On the ground, a convoy consisting of multiple vehicles and 2 armored vehicles was moving along the only road. "If the weather conditions permit, airborne operations can be carried out," the captain communicated in the aircraft. "Then, let's start the operation." Chapter 215 Rescue Success. The glider immediately unhooked from the transport plane, circled in the air, and flew to the largest military base. In the cabin, Taj began to tease Roman. "Hey, Roman, you are scared, right?" "No, I'm not scared." Well, in fact, Roman was scared to death. He was afraid of heights, but at this time, he must not give in. Ron was still listening on the public channel. "O'Connor, he must be scared. If you need it, just cry. We won't laugh at you." Ha. Taj laughed very wildly, but after laughing, he kindly reminded, "As your friend, I am very concerned about your physical condition, so just in case, I put a few adult diapers in the glove box of your car. Hey, can't you be quiet for a while, brother?" Roman was annoyed by them, but he still secretly opened the glove box, and there was indeed a pack of adult diapers inside. Roman was entangled. Should he use it or not? If he used it, he would definitely be laughed at for a long time by Taj and the others. But if he didn't use it, if he really peed his pants, he would probably be laughed at for the rest of his life, especially since Ron was one of the people who laughed at him. This was simply unacceptable to him. Outside, Ron estimated the approximate location of the convoy, turned on the intercom and ordered, "Open the cabin door. Let's get started, brothers, let's have a big fight." The cabin door of the plane opened, and Toretto and O'Connor's cars were at the outermost of the 2 planes. The 2 put the car in reverse gear, released the handbrake, and the car slid backwards, immediately falling from the plane into the air, falling like a stream. Then Taj, Letty, and the Smith fell one by one. "Wow, it looks so exciting." Ron opened the window of the plane and looked at them enviously. While Giselle was flying the plane, he said, "If you like, you can do it with them." "No, I have more important things to do." Ron dragged out a thick pipe from under the seat and pointed it in the direction of the military base. It was the individual airburst bomb launcher that Orlov helped him find last time. Swoosh, the rocket was fired from the launch tube with a long tail flame. Before it landed, the special fuse suddenly exploded, quickly spreading the fuel-air explosive agent to the mercenaries who had just walked out of the fortifications, and then ignited instantly. Boom! Within 50 square meters, all the mercenaries were burned to charcoal in an instant. FXXK. "This thing is too violent." Ron excitedly threw the used rocket launcher. "But I like it, but I don't like it." Giselle frowned and complained, "This taste is too bad. I feel that I can't look at barbecue for a long time, then eat something else, such as steak," Ron said, and took out the second fuel-air explosive rocket launcher and aimed it. At this time, the mercenaries at the military base had begun to fight back. But not all mercenaries are as professional as the American Blackwater Company. In fact, most of the mercenaries serving these small warlords come from small companies. As long as you have a gun, you are a mercenary. There is a serious lack of heavy weapons, not to mention anti-aircraft weapons. The mercenaries' counterattack posed almost no threat to the aircraft. Ron moved his fingers slightly, and the second fuel-air explosive bomb was fired, which once again set off a spectacular mushroom cloud over the small military base. "Ron, I remember I told you to keep a low profile." The exasperated voice of the anonymous person came from the communicator. Then, the third and fourth Ron fired a total of 6 individual fuel-air explosive bombs, almost burning the entire military base into scorched earth. On the other side, The convoy led by Toretto had already successfully landed on the ground through parachutes, and quickly chased after the convoy transporting Ramsey, but encountered some trouble. The rear doors of the last two vehicles transporting Ramsey's convoy suddenly opened, revealing the heavy machine guns inside, and fired at Toretto's convoy. The bullets hit the bulletproof body of the car, and sparks flew everywhere. "Shit. What the hell is this?" O'Connor shouted, and hurriedly turned the steering wheel to the side, and other vehicles also avoided it. The convoy immediately disbanded the formation, and each swayed left and right to avoid being hit by bullets on the tires. Although the body of the car is bulletproof, the tires are not. "Damn it, I thought the new boss would give me some easy work, but I didn't expect to be with these desperados again," Mr. Smith complained. Seeing that the situation was not good, Toretto immediately picked up the walkie-talkie. "Taj, come and cover your car to the front, here it comes." The other cars gave way, and at the end of the convoy, an off-road vehicle equipped with the thickest armor pushed from the back to the front. "Okay, form a formation." Following Toretto's order, the convoy once again formed a column, with a reinforced body connected head to tail. Mary passed from the last car to the front one by one, and the front car suddenly gained superhuman horsepower. "Now," Toretto shouted, and everyone stepped on the accelerator at the same time. Bang! Two cars with machine guns were knocked out of the road and crashed into the stone wall without moving. At this point, the vehicles at the end of the convoy had been cleared, and the bus carrying the hostages was in front of everyone. Under Toretto's command, the convoy changed its formation again. Toretto and O'Connor's cars moved forward and attached two bombs to the left and right sides of the bus. The luggage compartments on both sides of the bus suddenly opened. The place where the luggage should have been stored was actually converted into an automatic machine gun. As soon as the muzzle moved, Toretto and O'Connor quickly retreated. The automatic machine gun fired a string of bullets into nothingness, and could only look back and forth with a covetous look, ready to give the car that rushed up without knowing its own strength a good blow. Hook. Toretto's car was level with Letty's, and the two cars fired javelins at the same time. The javelins penetrated the rear of the bus and immediately popped out four claws, hooking the door at the back of the bus tightly. Taji, detonate, boom. The bombs attached to both sides of the bus exploded at the same time, and Toretto and Letty's two cars hooked to the rear of the bus stepped on the brakes together. Under the intersection of the three forces, the rear of the bus was directly torn open by the claws of the two cars, leaving a big hole. At this time, Ron and Giselle's plane just flew over their heads, almost as fast as the bus. The height difference between the plane and the bus was less than 2 meters, almost touching. Ron jumped from the plane and jumped into the big hole at the rear of the bus, and directly knocked the mercenary who had just raised his gun to the ground. When Ron stood up again, there was a dagger stuck in the throat of the mercenary, and he seemed to be dead. Seeing this, the mercenary in the car immediately rushed towards Ron. Before he could get close, Ron had already used a beautiful gun-drawing action to push the revolver into his throat. "Are you really that impatient, baby?" Ron smiled playfully and pulled the trigger. The mercenary was shocked and fell to the ground. It turned out that the muzzle of the gun that Ron inserted into the mercenary's throat was not aimed upward to shoot the head, but was pointed downward along the throat. The bullet passed through the mercenary's throat, crushing his internal organs, and then flew out from under his body, making a small hole in the floor of the bus. Sure enough, it looks much cleaner to shoot from top to bottom than from bottom to top. At least you don't have to splatter brains everywhere, Ron sighed, and unknowingly learned a little life skill. Unfortunately, he didn't have much time to sigh. Two more mercenaries appeared from the back of the bus, one of whom was the driver. Ron raised his hand and shot twice. Bang! Bang! There were two more bodies on the ground. At this point, except for the two mercenaries who were knocked unconscious by the bomb at the beginning, everyone in the bus was slaughtered by Ron, except for the woman wearing a hood who kept screaming. Bang! Ron unlocked the door with one shot, and pulled off the hood, revealing a woman with an afro. "Are you Ramsey?" "Yes, I am." "Please don't kill me, please," Ramsey pleaded with tears on her face, and even her makeup was smudged by tears. With the effect of the hood, her face was black. "Don't worry, I'm here to save you." Ron pulled out the dagger from the dead mercenary, cut her wrist, and the bandage opened. "Come with me." Ron pulled the woman to the back of the car, and behind it was Mrs. Smith's pickup truck, which was in a reverse position, close to the bus. "Listen, I want you to jump over now, and you will be safe if you jump over." "No, I don't want to. It will kill people," Ramsey grabbed Ron's clothes tightly, scared to death, and kept shrinking back. "Do you think I'm discussing this with you?" Ron laughed in anger and said in a vicious tone. Ramsey was frightened and Ron took the opportunity to push him hard on the back. Go! Bang! Ramsey fell into the truck bed. Bang! Another sound. Ron also jumped into the truck bed. "The hostages have been rescued successfully, and now we will start to retreat," Ron gave an order, and then he quickly pulled out his gun and turned around to shoot without even looking. Bang! The mercenary with an Asian face fell to the ground. He had just woken up from the dizziness of the explosion and was about to jump out of the bus when he was discovered by Ron. "Mercenaries are getting more and more useless now. You are the worst batch I have ever seen." After killing someone, Ron did not forget to whip the corpse and complain, and then slap the roof of the car. "Everyone is here now. Retreat. Go home." Cars entered the dense forest one after another and went down the slope. The last car did not forget to spread mines while walking. The mercenaries from the other two military bases finally gave up the idea of continuing the pursuit after blowing up two vehicles. They could only stamp their feet as they watched the dust rising from the forest. After Ron's convoy picked up Giselle, who had parachuted out of the dense forest, they went down the mountain range and finally stopped by a river. A fishing boat was quietly parked in the river, and the river led to the sea, which was their retreat. "He doesn't look like a hacker at all," Roman said secretly to Ramsey, who had fainted on the boat. "If you don't believe it, forget it." He said it was the truth. Peggy's figure is indeed much sexier than Ramsey's now. But someone took the initiative before Roman. Seeing Ramsey wake up, O'Connor immediately sat over to him. "You hit your head. Do you have any of the following symptoms now? For example, nausea? Tinnitus? Dizziness?" Every time O'Connor said something, Ramsey shook his head. "I want to know where my shoes are. Sorry, I accidentally threw them away when I threw you just now." Ron came over. "I don't know whether I should thank you for saving me, or blame you for throwing me into the truck like a sack of potatoes, then blame me. We haven't gone far yet. Tell me where the device is now, and I promise to take you back immediately." "Okay." Ron had no intention of coaxing him at all, and looked at Ramsey's figure unscrupulously. "Do I need to remind you who are the people who kidnapped you? They are real desperados. As long as they have money, they will do anything and they pursue the principle of maximizing profits. A woman like you will not be able to withstand their interrogation. She will soon hand over what they want, and then..." Ramsey tightened her clothes. She was a little uncomfortable with Ron's gaze, but she couldn't help being curious. "Then what?" "Then of course you will take turns to enjoy them. When they get tired of playing with you, you may be sent to a window in Amsterdam. Then, when your blood is successfully matched with that of a rich man, the useful parts of your body will be taken out one by one and transplanted to the corresponding person." Ramsey was already shaking with fear. Seeing that the time was right, Toretto asked, "Tell us where the thing is. I have sent it to a friend in Abu Dhabi. Do they know this news?" Ron pointed to the top of the mountain. "No, I didn't tell them. I don't trust them." "I want to trust you." Ramsey finally raised his confidence and looked at Ron. "Your tactical skills and equipment show that you are a well-trained team, especially you. I don't know why someone with such skills would work for terrorists." Chapter 216 God's Eye. "Hey, can you imagine that? I've already bought my swimming trunks, but he said I don't need to go. I've never been to Abu Dhabi in my life," Roman complained, cursing, and deliberately lowered his voice to prevent Ron from hearing. "He said someone would help him get his things back," O'Connor said without raising his head, sorting out his weapons. "Almost all of his men are here, except for the two lying in the hospital. We can't count on those two old men, right?" Roman squatted in front of O'Connor and pointed at another sofa. On the sofa over there, the Smiths were watching cartoons with Carl on the left and right. If you don't look at Carl's uninterested face, they look like a happy family. After all, compared to stupid cartoons, Carl prefers to watch bloody horror movies such as Chainsaw Massacre adapted from real events. Unfortunately, this proposal was jointly opposed by the couple. Ron felt that they might have already replaced the role of Carl's parents. Giselle sat on the other side of the sofa, while Ron lay on her legs with his eyes closed. He didn't know if he was asleep or not. Roman only dared to whisper, "Knock, knock, knock." There was a knock on the door. Taj was about to open the door, but Ron suddenly jumped up from the sofa. "Let me open the door. He is a very cautious guy. If someone else opens the door, he will have unnecessary extra thoughts." Ron opened the door. Outside was an unprepossessing, short Asian man who looked like an honest chef in a Chinese restaurant. Roman was puzzled. Was this man a delivery man? Anyway, he didn't believe that such a person could bring back something that was so closely guarded. Unexpectedly, Ron hugged him enthusiastically. "Hi, Guan Yuming, long time no see." When reading the name, Ron used pure Chinese pronunciation. The Asian outside the door was confused by Ron's enthusiasm and hurriedly stuffed a small package into his arms. "Here, what you want, now we are even." After saying that, he hurriedly wanted to leave, and Ron quickly tried to persuade him to stay. "Hey, don't you really want to come to the United States to work for me? I can give you a very high salary, such as $50,000 a month." "Hey, is that guy stupid? Such a high salary just to hire an old Asian guy? With a physique like that, I can beat 10 of them by myself," Roman muttered in O'Connor's ear, but the volume was so loud that everyone in the room could hear it, including Guan Yuming, who was standing at the door. Ron was about to explode, but was pulled back by Guan Yuming, and he just turned back and glared at him. "With a face like that, you still want to beat 10 people alone?" If it was in the furniture store, Ron didn't even have the confidence to take him down. To deal with such an elite, at least an entire Navy SEAL team would be dispatched. "No, I don't want to have anything to do with your type of work, really, not at all. If I didn't owe you a favor, I wouldn't want to get involved in this mess." Guan Yuming shook his head. "I prefer a quiet life. My daughter is studying in London. I opened a Chinese restaurant in Chinatown next door. You are welcome to come and taste it whenever you are free. That's it. I'm leaving first. I bought the nearest flight back to London. Here, what you want. Now let's see where he is." After Guan Yuming left, Ron pushed open the bedroom door, and inside was a spacious electronic room filled with sophisticated equipment. Anonymous and his men had been waiting for a long time. That's right, the place where Ron and his men were located was exactly one of Anonymous's secret bases overseas. "Okay, just for such a small thing, so much trouble has been caused." Anonymous took the chip in his hand and looked around. "Excuse me, Ron, you really did a great job. I mean, you and all your friends. Now my people have been arranged. Everything is up to you." Anonymous put the chip back into Ron's hand. Ramsey, the female hacker, stepped forward, and Ron returned the chip to its original owner. "Activate this and help me find that bastard Deke." Ramsey skillfully connected the chip to the computer and sat in front of a bunch of electronic devices that Ron didn't recognize and started working. The 9 screens connected to the electronic devices showed different areas of the world map at the same time. "I have hacked into the security network of the Etihad Towers. That's where we last saw Shaw, so we have to start there." When Ron and they came to Abu Dhabi, Deke Shaw also followed, but he couldn't figure out what Ron was doing here, so he could only wander around Ron aimlessly. So Ron thought of a trick and found a Deke Shaw, an outsider he had never seen before, that is, Guan Yuming, to help him get his things back. "Wait, what do those numbers mean?" O'Connor asked curiously. "That's using a biochemical mapping algorithm to lock onto Zio's appearance, and then searching through every camera, as well as all the audio equipment in this hemisphere. When it comes to technical issues, the female hacker talks endlessly and is extremely proud, but Ron curls his lips in disdain. "Let's stop bragging, okay? Did you research this thing yourself?" "Found it, he's hiding here," Ramsey shouted in surprise, and the screen showed the scene of Zio driving into a factory from different angles. "Automated factories, no one, and many places to hide. It's a good choice, but with new technologies, there is no place to hide," Anonymous exclaimed sincerely. "Congratulations on opening a new chapter and finding people. Maybe it won't be long before all of us agents will be unemployed. Well, kids, it's time for you to set off and taste the fruits of victory." Anonymous was lying when he said at first that he didn't care about Zio's life or death. How could a terrorist wandering in the United States with professional military skills have no influence on him? He just pretended not to care as a bargaining chip in the negotiation with Ron. Seeing that he could finally arrest Zio, the anonymous person was naturally very happy. But Ron still felt that something was not right. It was so easy to find him. It was too easy, right? With Ron's understanding of that cunning guy, it seemed that such easy to track his whereabouts were left intentionally. Ron took a rough look at all the surveillance videos that Ram-7 found. Zio walked under the camera without any cover in almost all his actions. A wanted criminal who has been wanted by the British government for 6 years but has never been caught, is at this level? He can't even disguise himself? Ron felt that there must be a trick. Wait, Ron stopped everyone who was about to leave. Ramsey, can you pull up the recording of Deckard Shaw's previous call? How is that possible? Ramsey shook her afro quickly. You said it was the previous one. Who had recorded him at that time? I can only monitor the latest call and record it. Hey. What's wrong, man? Aren't we going to arrest Zyle now? Can't we just kick his ass? Taj said puzzledly, and everyone's eyes were focused on Ron at the same time. Well, you see, Ron pulled up a map of the entire area. This location is very clever. The nearest U.S. military base will take at least an hour to send out support. In other words, if we are attacked here, we will not be able to get support in a short time, so what? Anyway, he is alone, you won't be scared, right? Roman took the opportunity to laugh, but after being glared at by Ron, he quickly shrank back behind O'Connor. Is he alone? Or does he want us to think he is alone? What do you mean, Ron? The expression on Anonymous's face became serious again. As a professional agent, he didn't need to say much, he already understood the seriousness of the matter. Look at this automated factory. Apart from the road leading into the factory, it is surrounded by endless desert. There is almost no place to hide, and he knew that there were so many of us. Even if the terrain of the factory was complicated, it would be a matter of time before he was caught. Believe me, an agent with intelligence would not let himself fall into such a dangerous place, and more importantly, a friend of mine, a friend you and I both know, Ron gestured to Anonymous, gave me a very interesting intelligence. Recently, someone near Abu Dhabi sent a large amount of weapons and equipment through smuggling ships. I guess it must not be because the U.S. military intends to find private contractors. Ron glanced at everyone with a sharp gaze. He was now completely convinced that there was definitely something wrong with this factory. Ramsey, can you call it up? Are there any surveillance videos of this factory in recent days? Wait a minute. Ramsey sat down next to the computer again, his fingers flying on the keyboard, and quickly operated. The surveillance videos around here can be saved for up to 72 hours. My algorithm can filter out key information from it. What do you want to see? Then show me all the people and vehicles entering and leaving in the past 72 hours. That's it right away. Ramsey pressed the confirmation key, and before others spoke, she exclaimed, "Oh my God, what's going on?" On the computer screen, the video selected by the algorithm stunned everyone. 10 cars, 2 armored vehicles and a large number of armed personnel had been lurking in the automated factory in the dark a day ago. If they had set off rashly just now, the consequences would be disastrous. Anonymous was confused by the sudden appearance of a large number of armed personnel. Who can tell me who these people are? These are the guys who arrested me. I remember this face. Ramke pointed at the black commander on the screen and shouted. Okay, the next question is, when did Deckard Shaw get in touch with these extremist terrorists? I can answer this question right now. Where do you think he has been hiding for so many years? The answer is right in front of you now. Ron sighed. I thought we could never find him before. He was hiding his identity and said he would perform skits in China or go to Australia to be an actor. Unexpectedly, he chose the method that is easiest to be discovered. It seems that I overestimated it. What should we do now? Do you need me to call for support from the headquarters? O'Connor asked. Impossible. The U.S. military must not carry out large-scale military activities in this area. That will provoke sensitive nerves around the world. Believe me, you definitely don't want to see a world war happen. The anonymous person refused without hesitation. No need for support, we can handle it ourselves. Ron stared at the screen and licked his lips excitedly, looking like a villain. Anonymous stared at Ron warily. Don't think of taking American military equipment. If large-scale American standard equipment appears during the operation, even a fool will know what's going on. Ron rolled his eyes, as if others wouldn't know if they didn't use it. Which country in the world would pick a fight on other people's land every day? Of course, this must not be said out loud because it is politically incorrect. Well, since the simple way doesn't work, we have to use a more troublesome way. Ron clapped his hands and focused everyone's attention on himself. Now everyone go to the nearby construction sites and purchase steel pipes for me in large quantities. If we remember correctly, the steel pipes on their construction sites are all from China. Wait? Ron, what are you going to do? Anonymous suddenly felt a little panicked. He suddenly had a bad idea in his mind. This operation has been filed with the Pentagon. I don't allow you to mess around. Don't worry, except you. No one knows that I messed around. Ron smiled mysteriously and turned to look at Toretto. I heard that you did a good job in Brazil? Then I think you must remember the weapon used by V. Of course I remember. O'Connor's eyes lit up. Others also came to their senses. Aren't you V? You mean? Ron nodded. Since the standard equipment can't be used, then we can use primitive methods to blow the factory into slag. Toretto, Letty, you two go modify the cars. I need 5 pickup trucks modified with launchers. Smith, you two go purchase steel pipes and gas tanks, as many as you can, as well as fertilizers and sugar. Ron patted the soldier next to Anonymous. Excuse me, can you and your brothers be workers for me for a while? I need a lot of workers who can weld. Ron, what on earth are you going to do? Anonymous thought of the ghost in Brazil. That person made him lose face. Almost single-handedly, he incited the entire Brazilian rebel army and uprooted the intelligence system he had deployed in the gang. Nothing. Ron's mouth curved into a beautiful arc. It's just that if the problem can't be solved by the regular army, then I think using the guerrilla method is also a good choice. What do you think? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217 The Mysterious Man V reappears. Abu Dhabi Desert, Automated Factory. Deckard Shaw was enjoying a piece of tender and juicy steak with great relish, but his eating manner was really inelegant and unbearable to watch. Zio, why haven't they come yet? A ferocious-looking black man came out from behind the barrel of materials behind Zio. Did you forget to reveal some traces? I clearly told you to move more under the camera. If Ramsey was here, he would definitely recognize immediately that this black man was the boss of the mercenary group that kidnapped him. You don't think I went to so much trouble, chased you from the United States to Abu Dhabi despite the British wanted order, and then contacted you, just to cheat you out of a few steaks, right? Zio stuffed the last piece of steak into his mouth dissatisfiedly, chewed it a few times and just swallowed it. Burp. A big burp came out at the same time as Zio spoke. The sound was so loud that the whole room could hear it. The scene was very awkward for a while. Well, your steak is really delicious. It tastes exactly the same as the one I had in a high-end restaurant in the UK before. That's the Wagyu specially airlifted from Japan. The mercenary leader looked at the empty steak box at his feet. His mouth twitched, his heart was bleeding, he couldn't bear to eat these steaks himself. In the end, he endured it. Forget it. If he could catch Ramsey again, this little steak is not worth mentioning. Are you sure they will come? Of course. The other commander is Ron Lee Cooper, who has worked with me before. Zio wiped his mouth with a napkin. Just as he knows me, I know him as well. With Ron's style, once he locks onto an opponent, he will fight to the death. He always likes violent assaults and is obsessed with large caliber weapons. He likes heavy weapons. The phrase he often says is, "Great force can make miracles." However, due to the restrictions of the treaty, the U.S. military cannot carry out large-scale operations here, so airstrikes or artillery bombings can be ruled out first. I guess he will definitely equip Toretto and his men with large caliber weapons, maybe even rocket launchers, and break through the gate after encircling them. Boom boom boom. Zio was interrupted by a violent explosion halfway through his words, and Zio immediately nimbly got under the table. What's going on? The mercenary leader hid behind the bunker and yelled into the intercom. But all he got in return was a crackling noise. We're being attacked. Zio rolled on the ground, avoiding the chandelier falling from the ceiling, and rolled to the side of the mercenary leader, yelling in his ear. Zio gritted his teeth. Ron is here. Didn't you say he would bring people to raid in? What's going on with the bombing now? After a wave of explosions, the mercenary leader immediately grabbed Zio's collar and shouted. How should I know? Zio slapped his hand away, ignoring the mercenaries who had already pointed their guns at him, and shouted, it's obviously impossible for him to mobilize the U.S. military in this place. If there is a large-scale operation, before he finished speaking, a round object smashed the glass window and fell to the ground between the two of them. It turned out to be a gas tank? But it was different from an ordinary gas tank. On the top of the tank, there was a time delay fuse that made a beeping sound. The mercenary leader was confused. Is this a gas tank? Lie down. Zio quickly threw the mercenary leader to the ground. Boom. The gas tanks that flew into the factory exploded at the same time, and the flames quickly engulfed the mercenaries. Outside the automated factory, Ron used a telescope to observe the explosion. curling his lips in dissatisfaction. Who told us to use a time delay fuse? The effect is too slow. Change them all to grenade fuses. Roman's face was a little bitter, but there are not many explosives left. What's in it? It's still gas. It hasn't been changed. Roman carefully glanced at Ron's face when he spoke. It was because of him that the explosives that were originally enough were not enough, and they had to use the original gas instead. Gas is fine, but Ron did not mean to blame him, but his eyes lit up. Gas can also explode, and it's also powerful. How many gas tank shells do we have? There are about 200 left. Not bad. Then keep firing. Ron nodded, a smile on his lips. Ron, are you crazy? Anonymous, wearing a V mask, shouted, this is another country's land. We do not have authorization to conduct large-scale military operations here, so what? Hasn't the United States done enough unauthorized things overseas? Ron said disdainfully. Besides, who said we are Americans? Don't forget our current identity. Ron took out an identical V mask from his arms and put it on his face, and said seriously, we are V for Vendetta Abu Dhabi, %, and % Anonymous cursed a string of indescribable swear words, as ugly as they could be, until he was tired of cursing, and pointed at the automated factory that was about to become ruins. Just as he was cursing, 5 modified pickup trucks fired 5 rounds of gas tank rockets. What about now? Can we stop now? You've blown up the factory? No. Let's wait a little longer. Ron observed through a telescope and concluded, it's only the exterior that was blown down. The main structure hasn't been seriously damaged. Boom boom boom, the factory's buildings were finally blown down. What about now? Anonymous's hands were shaking. Not yet, only the main structure collapsed, but in the triangular structure formed after the collapse, there may still be enemies who are resisting stubbornly. Boom boom boom, the ruins on the factory were almost flattened. What about now? Anonymous swallowed a quick-acting heart-saving pill with his saliva. Not yet, the underground structure may not be affected. Ron still didn't let go. Continue, boss, we've run out of rockets. Carl turned around and reported with a bitter face. OMG. Thank God. Anonymous finally breathed a sigh of relief. Tisk, I should have prepared more gas cylinders, Ron said disappointedly. He didn't have enough fun watching the fireworks. Okay, then I'll leave the rest to you. Ron patted the anonymous man on the shoulder. Behind him were a group of American soldiers dressed in traditional Arab costumes and large headscarves disguised as local resistance organizations, as well as more than a dozen excavators of various models. Although I think there may be no living people down there, but, Ron stared at the ruins, Dek Shaw is a guy who can't be seen with common sense. Maybe he's still alive. What if he's still alive? The anonymous man asked. Just dig a hole on the spot and bury him as dead, or if you think he's still useful, lock him up first. Isn't that what you always do, Mr. V? As he said that, Ron took a photo of the anonymous man wearing the V mask. Recommend this book, Game Maker of Hogwarts Voldemort. Why? Why? I've got the Elder Wand. How can I still be defeated by you? Harry. Harry wiped the sweat from his nervousness with his sleeve, and then said, because I beat you 100 times in the game. Voldemort, what? What game? Beat me 100 times? Hermione, shut up and die. Harry, why can't you remember to finish off the boss after you defeat him? Chapter 218, The Cooper Family's Past. As Ron guessed, Deckard Shaw was still alive. He survived under the triangle formed by the collapse in the corner of the warehouse, but the others were not so lucky. In addition to Deckard Shaw, only 5 people in the entire mercenary group survived. Their leader was not included. As early as the 6th round of bombing, a shrapnel cut off 1/3 of his head. When Ron saw his body, he couldn't help but sigh that it was cut evenly. As for Shaw, who was still alive, he was thrown into the hospital by the anonymous person. 12 elite agents took turns to guard him. They planned to put him in prison after his injury healed. Whether to negotiate with the British or negotiate conditions for him to serve the CIA was not something Ron should consider. Now Ron's most entangled problem is that tonight, Howard will bring his new girlfriend Bernadette, who he has reconciled with, to Sheldon's house for dinner and introduce her to his friends. But Ron was a little embarrassed because he had already met her in advance and had a very deep understanding of her, from various postures. Although they were not the same person, they had the same face, which made Ron a little unable to look directly at Howard. He always felt as if you had put a hat on him for no reason. Ron would rather be in the desert, even if he had to fight with Deckard Shaw again. Leonard, watch me. Penny threw up a piece of food and then caught it in her mouth. Leonard, she's doing it again. Sheldon looked disgusted. I think Sheldon is upset when you tease the food. It shouldn't be when he picks up food from the bowl casually and ignores the problem of evenly distributing it that makes Sheldon depressed. Sheldon turned his head and faced Rajesh. Look, this is the fundamental reason why there is famine in India. This is also why everyone always wants to put you in the closet, Ram complained sharply. Really? How come I don't know? I am obviously an excellent student loved by all the students in the school. Everyone respects me because of my excellent grades. No one would have that idea. Sheldon shook his head to deny it. He was still immersed in his beautiful fantasy. No, the reason you weren't stuffed into the closet or tied to the toilet wasn't because you were good at studying. In fact, that's what annoyed many people. Ron ignored Sheldon's angry eyes and took an onion ring from the plate and stuffed it into his mouth after Penny. In fact, the reason you weren't stuffed into the closet was because you had two brothers, Sheldon. Ron looked directly into Sheldon's eyes. It's because of me and George that many people who wanted to bully you only thought about it. No, it's definitely because I'm a good student that I'm respected by everyone. Sheldon still didn't want to believe the facts. Ron spread his hands helplessly and pointed at Leonard and Rajesh. If you don't believe me, you can ask them. Did they receive special treatment in school because they were smarter? Sheldon looked at Leonard, and Leonard shook his head. No, Jimmy would only push my head into the toilet because I got better grades than him. Sheldon sat on the sofa in a daze, and Ron patted his shoulder. I think you owe George an apology. You didn't even go to her wedding. Although I know you were studying in Germany at that time, this is not a reason for you to ignore your relatives. But George always bullies me, Sheldon immediately retorted. But the tone of the rebuttal was not as firm as at the beginning. Of course he bullied you, and so did I. Who made you so annoying at that time? Even now, you can ask them if they are willing to beat you up if they have the chance. Without waiting for Sheldon to ask, the other three nodded together, especially Penny. If it weren't for Ron's special identity and strong fighting ability, Penny swore that he would have tied Sheldon to the ground with all four hooves, just like a calf on the farm. Little George bullied you, but when he was outside, he always helped you because you were his brother. He even fought with others in the football team because others said bad things about you. Although his fighting ability was as weak as a chicken, he really protected his family very well, and during the most difficult time at home, it was he who gave up the opportunity to go to college and kept working outside, which made the family less tense for a while. In addition to the money from the songs I sold, we finally raised the medical expenses for old George. Otherwise, we might have lost our father that time. Sheldon, what were you doing at that time? This time, there was no blame in Ron's eyes, but Sheldon lowered his head in shame under his stare. Because at that time, he was studying in Germany. In his own words, he was immersed in the ocean of knowledge. But in reality, she didn't care about the family affairs at that time, and she didn't even take the initiative to call home. He didn't even know that George was seriously ill until Mary called her to chat. Sheldon opened his mouth, but didn't say anything. Penny held Sheldon's hand intimately and glared at Ron with dissatisfaction. He is still a child. This is probably what her eyes meant. I don't mean to blame you for telling you this. Ron's tone also softened, and he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. What's wrong with me? It was clearly agreed that Sheldon would never know about these things, and he was the first to propose the confidentiality. But today, I don't know why, I suddenly felt very emotional. Sheldon, I know you've been different from others since you were little, and you've had a hard time, but you have to understand that no one in this world has it easy. We all have a hard time, but luckily we've finally made it through. Little George is engaged in his favorite automotive industry, and he has his own tire shop, and he's opened chain stores all over Texas. Although Missy gave up her studies, she didn't have any regrets, because she didn't like studying much anyway, and she had a man who'd always love and protect her by her side. Old George took advantage of his time to recuperate to study football tactics, and after he got out, he was able to teach at a university, and Mom and Grandma were satisfied as long as they saw that each of us was healthy and happy. But, Sheldon, when are you going to take on your responsibilities like a real man? Sheldon's eyes widened, but he couldn't say anything. Ron sighed, knowing that he was a little too hasty. Forget it, one day you'll figure it out. Chapter 219 Haley's Little Trouble. Good evening, my dear silly friends. Howard walked into the door with Bernadette triumphantly. He wanted to show off his new girlfriend in front of his friends until he saw Ron. Then, he immediately stood in front of Bernadette nervously. Ron, you are back too? I suddenly remembered that there is a good Chinese restaurant on the corner. I have always wanted to take my dear girlfriend there. Let's go first. Didn't you say you would bring me to meet your friends? Who is a? Bernadette pulled Howard with a puzzled look. Okay, Rajesh, Sheldon, I want to introduce my girlfriend Bernadette to you. Howard winked at Ron. You have met Leonard, Penny and Ron. Hey X3. I hope you don't mind me bringing my girlfriend to dinner. I told her that she can join us. Seeing that Bernadette was still normal after seeing Ron, Howard finally put his mind at ease and continued to show off. Of course, the more people there are, the more fun there is. No, this is a false equivalence. More people does not mean more fun. If there are 2,000 people in this apartment now, will we be happy? No, we will suffocate to death. Sheldon's argumentative nature came into play again. Take a seat. I'm starving. Let's just take out all the food and put it on the table to share. In order to prevent Sheldon from continuing to argue, Ron quickly stood up and invited Bernadette to take a seat, and glared at him fiercely. Sheldon could only complain in a low voice, why not put your hands behind your back and have an eating competition, while walking towards the refrigerator. Bernadette naturally walked to the sofa and was about to sit down. Everyone shouted together, no. 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 Don't sit there, what's the matter? Bernadette quickly stood up. You can't sit there. Penny rubbed her hands awkwardly. Why? Because that's Sheldon's exclusive seat, can't he sit somewhere else? Bernadette asked puzzledly. Sheldon, who was sitting next to the refrigerator, immediately glared at her fiercely, but this time he didn't need to speak, as Penny had already started to explain for him. No, you see, in the winter, the distance between this position and the heater is enough to keep him warm, but not too close to sweat. In the summer, this position is right in the breeze generated by the convection between this side and the window. The angle here is not directly facing the TV, so he can still talk to everyone, and at the same time it is not too off to cause picture distortion. Everyone was stunned by Penny's magical speech. Even Ron couldn't help but marvel at the wonder of the creator. Tell me the truth, Penny, did you get the wrong script today? Only Sheldon looked at Penny with approval. Wow, it looks like you are not completely hopeless. Starting with this friendly atmosphere, the meal was very harmonious, except that the topic of shoes between Penny and Bernadette from time to time made Sheldon feel uncomfortable, and Penny was embarrassed that she couldn't get a word in when Bernadette and Leonard talked about physics experiments. Bernadette's interest in Leonard's physics experiment made Howard jealous, and Ron received text messages from Hope, a girl who looked exactly like Bernadette, from time to time, which made him look at Howard in a strange way. Other than that, this dinner can be said to be very harmonious. Well, Ron himself was confused by the complicated relationship in this dinner, so after the meal, he was the first to stand up. I'm full, and I have something to do. I won't be back tonight. Leonard, you can stay in our apartment tonight. Leonard nodded happily, and couldn't help feeling that Ron was still a brother. Well, in fact, the idea of helping others to achieve their goals only accounted for half of Ron's decision. The other half was mainly because Hope had just sent him a few photos of gymnastics training, the kind with the more distinctive clothing. This kind of service is called birthday suit in American slang, which is the so-called birthday suit. He was a little angry and was anxious to practice gymnastics, but he didn't expect that he would train all night and fall asleep until dawn. Before going to bed, Ron's last thought was, I am really a gymnastics enthusiast. However, when Ron thought that he could finally have a morning when he woke up naturally after a busy period of agent work, he was woken up by his cell phone again. Why can't you turn off your damn cell phone? Hope was also woken up by the ringing of the cell phone and said dazedly, because I am an agent and I have to be ready to deal with emergencies at any time. Baby, can you help me pass the phone? Oh my God, you are not the only agent in the United States. Can you not talk about work on weekends? Hope turned over and half of her body pressed on Ron. Ron immediately saluted to show respect. Of course, but this time it's not about work. Ron looked at the cell phone number, hesitated for a moment, and still pressed the call button. Hi, Haley, long time no see. It was Ron's cousin, Claire's eldest daughter Haley Dunphy's call. Uncle Ron, how are you doing lately? Ron looked at the alarm clock and sighed. I guess you called me at 8 in the morning. You must not want to ask me if I'm okay, right? What happened this time? Were you arrested for drinking and need me to bail you out? Or did you hit your driving school driver again? Well, no matter which one it is, I promise I will tell your mother this time. No, Uncle Ron, I didn't cause any trouble this time. It's just a small matter. Can you please help me for the sake of our relationship? Haley immediately pretended to be pitiful on the phone. I see. Tell me, what's the matter this time? I want to borrow some money, for emergency. I promise I will work and pay you back in the future. Haley raised her hand and swore. Borrow money? How much? $900 what? Ron frowned when he heard the number $900. For a rich man like Ron, it is not worth mentioning, but for a high school student like Haley, it is a lot of money. The purchasing power of $900 at that time, without considering accommodation and other issues, can share a comfortable life with an adult for a month, provided that there is no outrageous consumption. Or you don't have to give me gifts for Christmas this year, and you don't have to give me gifts for Halloween, and deduct the money for gifts in the next 10 years, okay? Haley pleaded pitifully. Okay, of course I can help you, but at least you have to let me know why you need so much money. Why don't you ask Claire? Ron put on a coat and walked to the table to drink a glass of water. Although Claire has always been stingy, if it is a legitimate need, Claire will definitely give it to you. Oh, can I not tell you? Haley began to bargain. If you don't tell me, I can't help you, Ron answered firmly. He didn't want to help Haley complete something that he couldn't tell anyone, and then be blamed by Claire. Oh, Haley gritted her teeth and finally made up her mind. Okay, Uncle Ron, I can tell you, but can you not tell my mother? Of course, Ron agreed readily. Isn't it just not telling Claire? What's so difficult about this? If the matter is serious, you can tell Dunphy, and Dunphy will tell Claire, then it will not be considered as his breaking the appointment. It's like this. Haley hesitated and continued, some time ago, I wanted to get some fake IDs for myself and my friends. I didn't get the fake IDs to buy alcohol, we just wanted to go to the bar to watch a band performance. Okay, then what? Then I took their money and gave the money to my classmate's cousin, and he fooled us all. So what are you going to do? Borrow money to pay back your friends first? Haley asked hopefully. Yes, that's it, Uncle Ron, can you help me? Of course not, Ron shook his head. Haley was very anxious. You are cheating. Ron, you clearly promised me that you would lend me the money if you told me. How could you do this? You can even cheat your niece. Listen, stupid girl. Ron was a little confused by Haley's noise and rubbed his temple and said, first, I never promised to lend you the money without telling you the whole story. Second, although I appreciate your willingness to pay back the money your friends were cheated of, this is not the way to do it, kid. You should call the police and the police will get the money back for you. But my mother is running for town council recently, and there can't be any negative news at this time. I just want to get the $900 back without affecting her. Haley's voice suddenly became smaller, and Ron heard Mandy's voice over there. It seems that Haley should be at home, but is it really okay to say this kind of thing in front of others? I won't lend you the money, Ron said firmly, causing Haley to wail. But he didn't finish his words. But what? Haley rekindled hope. But you can get the money back yourself. How is that possible? Haley yelled. He's a scoundrel. What if I go with you? Do you remember what your dear Uncle Ron does for a job? Ron grinned. Wait for me. I'll pick you up right away. Thank you, Uncle Ron. The anger of being woken up early in the morning is not so easy to eliminate, but how can he bear to get angry in front of his cute little niece? Fortunately, there is a little gangster who can give him enough fun. After Ron hung up the phone, Hope had already begun to mourn for the poor little gangster in her heart. Unfortunately, when Haley was talking to Ron on the phone, she didn't notice that almost the whole family stood behind her and listened to the whole process. So, when Ron drove to the place designated by Haley, it was not Haley who was waiting for him, but all the adult male members of the Pritchett family headed by Jay. Hi, Uncle Jay, long time no see. So Haley isn't coming? Yes, thank you for cleaning up the mess for her. Jay and Ron hugged each other, but we still want to come and seek justice for her in person. It's up to you. He's just a little gangster anyway, Ron said indifferently, not unhappy at all that his toys were stolen. Of course he wouldn't be unhappy, although he hadn't cleaned up anyone for a long time. The time when he buried Zio in this oil with a homemade rocket didn't count, but compared to cleaning up people himself. Watching the old, weak, sick and disabled fight seemed more interesting. Dunphy's personality was weak. Mitchell and Zioka were a pair of good friends with mental illness, and the weak and gay fighting didn't seem very reliable. Among the four people, the only one who looked a little reliable was Jay. Jay was already 65 years old, which was considered old. At this age, the old people in Ron's previous life usually only watched old ladies dancing in the square for fun, but Jay was still able to marry a young wife who was only in her early 30s. If it weren't for his age, He could be said to be the most combative of the four men. What are you going to do? Yes, I want to ask that too. Do we have any plan? Mitchell rubbed his hands nervously on his clothes. Dunphy raised his hands. Brother has a plan. If that little bastard doesn't pay back the money, let him taste the power of my fists. What kind of plan is that? Mitchell became even more nervous. Just wait for me to visit you in prison. You will have to spend a lot of bail. Jay didn't wait for him to finish, turned around and walked towards the house, and Mitchell didn't even dare to follow him. You haven't changed at all, sissy. Mitchell. Ron laughed. In front of Ron, his son was so cowardly that he felt a little embarrassed. In his heart, he couldn't help but compare his 2 children with his sister Mary's 4 children. He was full of frustration and couldn't help but want to vent his anger on the little bastard who bullied his granddaughter. Knock, knock, knock. Jay knocked on the door. A high school student who looked malnourished walked out of the house. What's the matter? Are you Pete? What can I do for you? Do you know Haley Dunphy? You owe her $900, and we are here to collect the money, understand? Jay said fiercely. Oh, really? I called her N times, but her voicemail is always full. The high school student gangster pretended to be surprised. To be honest, this made Dunphy feel a little guilty, because that was indeed Haley's style. So how are you going to make up for it? Wait a minute, I'll give you the money now, the gangster promised and went back to the house and closed the door. The 3 men just relaxed, and before they could celebrate, the gangster quietly climbed out of the window and planned to sneak away. In the end, it still depends on me. Ron stood up from the car helplessly. He was about to beat the gangster according to the original plan, but he didn't expect Mitchell next to him to suddenly rush out and knock the gangster down. I caught him. I caught him. Ron, did you see that? I did it. Don't ever call me a sissy again. Congratulations, you've officially joined the ranks of men from today on. Chapter 220. Ron's study career. Heart eat dust, you old-fashioned plumber. Ron pressed the projection button, and the Bowser controlled by him threw a banana peel behind him, and the bearded plumber controlled by Sheldon crashed into the pillar uncontrollably. Ron's Bowser even had the leisure to reverse the car and knock the plumber into the gap of the pillar, and then swaggered across the finish line to win. This is unfair. You are an agent and you drive better than ordinary people. You betting with me is a fraud in itself, Sheldon complained dissatisfiedly. Rajesh patted Sheldon on the shoulder. Admit it, brother, whether it is a real car or a virtual cartoon car, you can't control it. Now it's my turn. That's right, it's the afternoon of the weekend, of course, game time. Today is the Mario Kart 3-person round-robin competition. Ron has been holding the steering wheel from the beginning to now and has never lost a game, while the other game controller blames Sheldon and Rajesh for taking turns to use it. They have not been able to break Ron's undefeated myth so far. However, Sheldon's role here is minimal. He is just making up the numbers. Ron can at least surpass him by 1 lap every time. The Indian is quite strong and can compete with Ron. I just need to spend more time practicing. Sheldon curled his lips. I have invested too much time in scientific research before. No, even if you play games every day, the result is the same. What you need is the driving skills of the golden finger. Or a magic lamp that can make wishes, to help the little loser who plays Mario Kart to realize his wishes. Rajesh's complaints were as sharp as ever without the influence of women, but the good times did not last long. Penny's sudden arrival immediately made the poor child speechless. Sheldon, can I say a few words to you? The topic has nothing to do with shoes, right? As everyone knows, Penny is a person who has no money but likes to buy beautiful shoes randomly. It is normal for Sheldon to have such concerns. It has nothing to do with shoes. Okay, then you can talk. Can we talk privately? Penny glanced at Rajesh and Ron. Ronzo turned to look at Rajesh. Sorry, men, can you please step aside? Rajesh spread his hands and widened his eyes. Why don't you step aside? Penny also cast her eyes on Ron. It just so happens that I have something to do, and I plan to talk to Sheldon in private, and I feel that what I want to talk to him about should be the same as what you plan to say, all related to learning. What do you think, Sheldon? Ron knew Penny's little thoughts at a glance. It was nothing more than that Bernadette and Leonard talked too intimately about physics during dinner yesterday, and she wanted to learn something from Sheldon so that she and Leonard would have more common topics. Go away. Ron threw the decision back to Sheldon, and Sheldon blurted out to Rajesh almost without thinking, I know this is unreasonable, but they have to talk in private. Rajesh could only hide in the inner room to step aside, feeling hurt. Penny, whose little trick was seen through, naturally had nothing to hide in front of Ron, and said embarrassedly, "Sheldon, I would like you to teach me a little physics." A little physics? Sheldon felt offended by what he had learned. There is no such thing. Physics covers the entire universe, from quantum particles to supernovas, from spinning electrons to rotating galaxies. All of these things are physics. How dare you say a little physics? How dare you? Well, you don't have to say it like a special report. I just want to learn to talk to Leonard about his work. Like Bernadette, Penny had no choice but to explain in more detail. Why not let Leonard teach you? I think she must want to give him a surprise. Ron's interruption caused Penny to nod repeatedly. Can't you give him a surprise in other ways? For example, if you clean the room, I guarantee he will be surprised and happy. Ron nodded with a smile. Yes, I will be surprised and happy too. To be honest, do you want to consider this option, Penny? Come on, Sheldon, this is very important to me. Penny, you are a difficult task. My time is limited and precious, Ron sarcastically said. So your so-called precious time is to play games with me and then lose an afternoon. Anyway, one sheep is better than two sheep, so Sheldon asked Ron, "Okay, you got it right, Ron, are you going to learn physics from me too? You didn't have any interest before, but I am interested now, but the direction I am interested in is a little different from Penny's. Why don't you solve her problem first?" Ron took out the ice cream from the refrigerator and ate it while watching the show. "Okay, Penny, what basic knowledge do you have? Did you teach any science courses in school?" Teacher Sheldon, who was forced to go online, asked helplessly. "Of course, I have done experiments on frogs." "Frog experiments?" Sheldon was stunned. "Yes, it's actually quite fun. Many girls vomited, but I killed the little frogs like deer." "Hey, Sheldon, you know, the dead frog legs will twitch occasionally," Penny recalled and said proudly. Sheldon felt his blood pressure soared by 100 units. "Sorry, Penny, I'm sorry I can't do anything." Ron, P.I. looked at Ron for help, and Ron stood up helplessly. "Don't be like this, Sheldon, you are so smart. Just treat it as a challenge? Or just treat it as an experiment? Just like what you did to Missy when you were a child." "Experiment?" Sheldon showed a thoughtful look. He once tried to instill the concept of science into his family, starting with his twin sister Missy. Of course, it was Missy who asked him for help first about the problem of scores. Then Sheldon began a bold attempt. He wanted to try to use his intelligence to train Missy from an ignorant ape into a scientist. The result is obvious, he failed. Now, a similar opportunity is before him again, but this time he has to face Penny, who is several times dumber than Missy. Interesting, Sheldon showed interest in the proposal. Since others can teach Gorilla Coco to speak sign language and teach dolphins to go through a ring of fire, maybe I can teach you some basic physics. Great. Penny was both happy and sad, although this analogy is a bit insulting. "Well, if you are willing to make it, then I will be Coco once." That's not necessarily true. Coco has learned more than 2,000 words, and none of them are related to shoes. Penny's hands, which were originally grateful, froze in place. "Ha ha ha," Ron laughed wildly. "Ron, what about you? Are you also planning to learn some basic physics?" Sheldon looked at Ron again. "Of course not. Those are too basic for a Harvard graduate like me." Ron quickly finished the ice cream in 2 bites. "I want to learn something more interesting. Some time ago, when I was on a mission in the desert, I found that ordinary gas explosions and explosive-filled shells had very limited damage to buildings. So I want to find some more effective means. I remember when you were in middle school, you tried to make a reactor at home and even called the FBI. Can ordinary people do that at home? Of course, it's not difficult. Even a junior high school student can do it as long as he masters the method. After all, the principles and drawings have been made public." Sheldon was not surprised by Ron's question at all. He was the only one who was not sensitive to such questions and answered them seriously. Penny on the side was stunned again. No matter how stupid she was, she still understood the word reactor. She even began to hesitate whether she should call the police. But thinking of Ron's special identity, she gave up the idea. Maybe it's really necessary for work? So what should I do? Ron took out a notebook that hadn't been used for a long time and took out a pen to take notes. "First, you need to dig 3,000 tons of uranium ore and bring it home. After repeated extraction and precipitation, you can extract yellow cake. I know this. At that time, you borrowed your mother's credit card to buy it from a small warlord in Africa. Your mother actually agreed." He thought you were going to buy some food. Ron remembered Sheldon's funny story and couldn't help laughing again. I'm not talking about food, Sheldon said angrily. I'm talking about a compound containing 0.72% uranium-235 and 99.27% uranium-238. Okay, Ron wrote down what Sheldon just said. Then what? Then convert them into uranium hexafluoride gas and put them in a centrifuge for purification. Since uranium-235 has 3 neutrons more than uranium-238, you only need to turn the centrifuge to 100,000 revolutions per minute to spin out the uranium-238 like a washing machine. Sheldon said it easily, but Ron felt something was wrong. First of all, where to get this weight of ore is a problem, and then, in his impression, a centrifuge that can rotate 100,000 times per minute does not seem to be something that all ordinary laboratories can achieve. 100,000 revolutions per minute means 1,666 rotations per second. This seems a bit difficult. Well, is there a simpler way? I remember that you didn't use this method in the end. First of all, getting so much ore is a big problem. Where can I get so much radioactive material? I remember that Dr. Sturgis seemed to have taught you a method. How about that method? Ron suddenly remembered that Sheldon's operation at that time seemed to be another method, so he asked. Yes, he taught me to use smoke detectors. Smoke detectors contain trace amounts of americium-241, but those things can only be used to make small reactors. Ron, what do you want this thing for? Sheldon asked curiously. In her impression, Ron has never been a person interested in science. Ron said indifferently, who knows? Maybe I suddenly feel that the electricity bill is too expensive, and plan to provide free electricity to the residents of our entire apartment building. Oh, Ron, you are really a good man, Sheldon praised. He rarely reached a consensus with his brother. Hey, Penny interrupted the affectionate gaze between the brothers. You promised to teach me physics? Sheldon, how are you going to teach me? Wait a moment, Sheldon asked Penny to sit down first, and he opened a new document on the computer and typed the next line. Experimental log 1, I am about to embark on one of the greatest challenges in my scientific career, teaching Penny physics. I call it the Gorilla Project, because this work is as difficult as teaching a gorilla to use sign language. Ron stood behind Sheldon, his eyes twitching. He had no doubt that after Penny saw this content, she would definitely blow Sheldon's head off. However, the most terrifying thing is that after thinking about it carefully, he actually has no reason to stop it. One word to describe it is ought to. Okay, let's get started. Sheldon finished writing the experimental log and finally stood up, but after seeing Penny sitting on the sofa with a nonchalant look on her face fell again. Penny, where's your notebook? I don't have a notebook. Without a notebook, how do you take notes? Sheldon was helpless with Penny's poor academic performance, so he could only take out a new notebook from his drawer and give it to her. Do you still need to take notes? Penny was a little reluctant to accept it. Of course, if you don't take notes, how can you take the exam? Sheldon said as a matter of course, and Penny was about to cry. Ron patted her shoulder and comforted her. Don't worry, Sheldon is a good teacher. She will set questions from what she has taught you. As long as you can get a B or above in your usual grades, it will definitely let you graduate in the end. There are still exams. Penny has already regretted it in her heart. Just think of it as love. Long live love. Ron cheered her up, but immediately in return Sheldon corrected the classroom discipline. Of course there are teaching tests, and more than once. This is the university's rule. I hope I didn't scare you. Sheldon had a stern face. He followed the university's rules and everything. Ron took another bucket of ice cream, a family-sized bucket that could hold all of Penny's sorrow, and continued to watch the show. Sheldon's small classroom began. Now let's talk about the introduction to physics. What is physics? I know. Ron raised his hand to answer. For example, if I punch you in the face, but in fact, your face also feeds back the same force to my fist, so, from this point of view, it is equivalent to your face punching my fist, right, Ron? That's just the action and reaction in Newton's classical mechanics, Sheldon said angrily. Don't interrupt me when I'm teaching. If this happens again, I'll ask you to leave my class. Well, anyway, I've learned what I wanted to learn, and I think Rajesh will take care of the rest for me, Ron shouted to the inner room. Right, Rajesh. Chapter 221 Max's Revenge Plan. It has to be said that Sheldon's wisdom did keep Ron busy for a while, but with the help of Rajesh and Walter, The construction of the reactor was much faster than originally expected. Yes, Walter is Walter White, the famous drug maker Heisenberg who once dominated the Los Angeles drug market. Because of cancer and Hank's plea, Ron let him go. However, all the income from drug production was confiscated by Ron in the name of fines, leaving only a loan that was just enough for his treatment expenses and a job as a scientific consultant. Now, Walter has been discharged from the hospital and the treatment effect is good. It's time to go out to work and pay off his debts. Well done, Ron praised generously while looking at the small reactor that had already achieved initial results. If you can make my small reactor start to supply electricity to my base before Christmas, I can also consider giving you a bonus. This is not difficult at all. A college student majoring in physics can handle it. Next time, I still hope that you can provide me with some chemistry-related jobs. After all, I am a chemist. No, your last job was a chemistry teacher, and now you are a scientist. You should thank me, otherwise no normal company would be willing to hire someone like you, Ron complained mercilessly. Is Walter White's experience pitiful? Of course it is pitiful, but pity is by no means a reason to commit a crime. Okay, Walter lowered his head in disappointment. If possible, he still wanted to do something to prove himself. This was the last obsession of a man abandoned by his wife. Ron felt a little sorry for him and walked over to pat his shoulder. If you have time after finishing the work on the reactor, maybe you can build a laboratory in the basement to study new explosives and other things. If you can improve the power of the weapon, I can give you a considerable bonus. Of course, it is not impossible to add your name to the patent. As a new capitalist, Ron found that his skills in drawing cakes were really getting more and more proficient. Walter was certainly moved. By the way, boss, I also received an email for you today. It was sent by a black-haired big-breasted girl in person. I didn't let others see it. I put it on your desk and pressed it with a folder, Walter said very considerately. He thought that Agent Giselle was Ron's real girlfriend, so he relied on the experience of an old man to conceal it for Ron. Unfortunately, what he didn't know was that Ron didn't have a so-called real girlfriend at all, or in other words, there was more than one real girlfriend. That should be Max. You did a good job, but you don't have to be so careful next time. I have a lot of women. Everyone knows about this. Maybe you need to get used to it. Ron said hello, leaving Walter dumbfounded, and returned to his office. Under the folder was an A4 paper in an envelope. There was no word on it, only a picture that looked like a peach. Ron was speechless and could only call Max. Hey, this is the end of the dream. Is there anything you want to say to loser Max? It can be heard that Max is not in a good mood. It's me, Ron. Ron picked up Max's letter and held it up to the light. I heard from my men that you sent me a letter? To be honest, I can't quite tell what it is. Is it a peach? Or bread? It just looks a little sexier than ordinary bread. Thank you, Ron. That's my butt. I printed it out with a copier with Caroline last night in the office. How is it? I have my own office now. Congratulations, but you don't sound happy, Ron asked with concern. He hadn't met the two sisters since he came back from dealing with Deckard Shaw, and felt a little inauthentic. Very good, of course very good. Do you think I would say that? Damn Caroline, she actually turned a temporary job into a formal one. And she's planning to give up our small cake plan. She betrayed our dream. Max's tone was extremely manic. To be honest, this is the first time I've heard the word dream from you. It seems that Caroline has indeed changed you a lot. Ron smiled with relief. Hey. The point now is not my change, but Caroline, okay? She accepted that long-term job, she betrayed our dream, so what are you going to do? Are you going to accept that job too? I guess Caroline will definitely find a way to get you a better job, such as one with insurance. Thank you, but I'm not going to accept that idiotic job. I will continue to make small cakes, even if she gives up. Max's tone was firm, but Ron began to hesitate. Frankly speaking, the workplace is a place that is more suitable for Caroline to play her strengths, and especially in the future, when she can get the money left by Mr. Channing to continue to remit, her life will inevitably enter a better stage, and it seems good to work hard in the workplace steadily. But this seems a bit unfair to Max. When Caroline was in the most difficult time, it was Max who took her in, and Caroline's business vision for small cakes completely ignited Max's hope of getting back on track. Ron certainly knew how much determination and energy Max had put in for this. Much more than Caroline saw. What did Caroline say? She said, "It's not that we abandoned the dream of cupcakes. but that it abandoned us and blew up in our faces, Max complained. You know, a lot of things will blow up in front of me, just like the last time you were in the bathroom at Caroline's house. That's part of a woman's life. You just need to wipe it clean with a towel and move on. Indeed, that day was very exciting. Ron nodded and savored it. Okay, I understand. So what are you going to do? Do you need me to talk to Caroline again? Talk? No, I need to teach this girl a lesson. Ron's interest was suddenly piqued. Lesson? I'm interested. How are you going to do it, Ron? Do you know where I am? Without waiting for Ron to answer, Max gave his own answer. I'm in the Human Resources Department now, and I plan to complain to Caroline for sexual harassment. That's a great idea. You're really a smart guy, Ron praised. As we all know, although the American people are known for their openness, they are very strict about sexual harassment in the workplace. If there is a complaint, the person will be fired. Even the president will be in trouble, such as the famous President Clinton. So, after you file a complaint against Caroline, do you want to find a place to celebrate with me? Ron invited him to exercise. Why not? Chapter 222 Another Guoda. It was already afternoon when Max and Ron finished their crazy party. Max was very upset about Caroline's decision to give up, so Ron simply persuaded her to give up for an afternoon, so they stayed at the Long Beach Hotel until the next day. The breakfast buffet at that hotel was very famous, and Max readily agreed. So Ron drove home alone, but when he passed a turn on the winding mountain road, a BMW parked on the side of the road caught Ron's attention. Of course, it was not the BMW that caught his attention. Although it was a 1999 BMW 750 IE38, the world's first car equipped with xenon headlights, it was nothing special for Ron, who was used to seeing all kinds of luxury cars in Toretto, even million-level luxury cars being modified at any time. What really attracted him was the driver's face, which was exactly the same as his subordinate Arthur and Deckard Shaw, who was lying in the hospital for further treatment. Ron drove around the bend calmly, then parked the car on the side of the road not far away, and immediately called the anonymous person. Arthur had just met him in the office, and he was going on a date with his girlfriend today, so this person could not be Arthur. Then the phone was connected. Ron, if I remember correctly, you would never call me if there was nothing wrong. What is it? You are not going to wish a Merry Christmas to an old man like me? There's still a month to Christmas. Of course not, Ron said in a serious tone. I want to ask you, what is the current situation of Deckard Shaw? Deckard Shaw? He is still receiving treatment in the hospital. The doctor said that I can put him in prison in another month. Why do you suddenly ask this? The anonymous person asked in some surprise. Ron was still worried. Are you sure? He didn't sneak away from your surveillance. Of course not. My men are all good-for-nothings, Anonymous said angrily. In fact, I just watched the surveillance 20 minutes ago, and he is still lying in the intensive care unit of the UCLA Medical Center. What's the matter with you? It's okay. Bye. Ron hung up the phone in a hurry and looked back at the exit of the bend on the road. The BMW car hadn't come out yet. It's not Arthur, it's not Deckard Shaw, which means that if nothing unexpected happens, another person with the Guoda's face has appeared in Los Angeles. Ron began to feel a little overwhelmed. It's been quiet for a few days? How come it started again? It's no wonder that Ron was overwhelmed. According to Ron's memory, no good things will happen to anyone with this face every time he appears. Unless the talk show artist from the other side of the ocean comes to Los Angeles for a tour, otherwise, he must be prepared for Los Angeles to be in chaos. Unfortunately, he just searched on his mobile phone and there was no news about the respectable talk show artist coming to Los Angeles for a performance. FXXK. What a pity. I really want to know what's going to happen now, Ron thought for a moment. Kirsten got out of the car and walked towards the BMW. It's not that Ron is nosy, but based on his memory and experience, wherever this face appears, something big will happen, and the nature of Ron's job makes it impossible for him to sit back and watch something big happen without reacting. So, instead of waiting for that guy whose name he didn't know yet to make trouble, Ron might as well take the initiative. Going around the mountain that blocked his view, Ron saw Guoda put a noose around the neck of an Asian woman, and then pointed at the grass on the side of the road and said something to her. Hey, I don't remember any law in our country that allows you to do this to a lady. Do you need me to call the police for you, Mom? Ron checked the gun in the holster for the last time and walked out of the rocks that blocked his view. Help. This man kidnapped me. The woman immediately shouted excitedly at Ron, and at the same time struggled to break free from Guoda's control. Ron was on full alert, but the other party was not slow to react. Seeing Ron draw his gun, he immediately pushed the woman towards him, and the woman was in his arms. Before Ron could see the woman's face clearly, Guoda rushed over and punched Ron in the face. Ron was a master of close combat, so how could he be afraid of such a petty trick? He pulled the woman and threw her behind him, took a big step back, blocked the hand without the gun, and immediately used the other hand as a support after blocking the fist, raised the gun and shot. Bang! Ron's shot missed. It turned out that when Ron put the gun in his hand, Guoda had already given up the plan to continue the attack. He rolled on the ground and rolled to the side of the car, opened the door to block it, and the bullet hit the door and sparked, but it was also bounced out, and no one knew where it bounced. MD. This car is bulletproof. I should have taken out the M500 earlier. Ron was full of regrets. He was holding a Taurus revolver with 8 rounds in his hand. It had 2 more rounds than an ordinary revolver, and accordingly, its power was slightly weaker. It was useless against a bulletproof car like this. Be careful, the woman behind him shouted. It turned out that Guoda had taken advantage of Ron's moment of shock to get into the car and immediately started the car to crash into Ron. In this situation, did Ron still need an amateur to remind him? He had already done what he wanted, without even dodging, and just stood there and shot at the car. Bang! The first bullet hit the front windshield, and naturally failed again. Just think about it, if the car door is bulletproof, how could the glass not be bulletproof? Ron was just trying it out. Bang! 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 Ron fired several shots in a row, aiming at the tire of the car, but at this angle, the difficulty of shooting was extremely high, and Ron actually missed a single shot. Buzz! The car engine roared, and it was about to hit Ron. Ron simply threw the gun at the car, and then the woman rolled to the grass beside the road, narrowly avoiding the collision. But Guoda was not so easy to deal with. The car was put into reverse gear and moved to a suitable angle. It was about to hit for the second time, but Ron reacted faster than him. Bang! With a crisp gunshot, Guoda's instinctive reaction to danger after years of being in and out of the battlefield immediately lowered his head. When he looked again, there was a bullet hole on the car window, which just echoed a bullet hole behind the driver's seat. Guoda's pupils shrank and he immediately made a judgment. This person is extremely dangerous and must be evacuated immediately. Buzz! Guoda stepped on the accelerator again. Just when Ron thought that the other party wanted to fight to the death, he didn't expect Guoda to feint a shot, suddenly turned the direction to the side, and the car body brushed Ron's second bullet and drove towards the road. This cunning guy. Ron cursed inwardly and turned around. Mom, are you okay? Do you want to? Ron's words got stuck in his throat. Because he actually knew this Asian lady. Chapter 223, Attack from the Human Smuggling Gang. Ron had a deep impression of this face. She could be considered the goddess of enlightenment in his previous life, such as the film The Jade Girl's Heart Sutra co-produced with Thor, That Man and Woman with his brother, and Don't Call the Police for Me, really no, thank you. Before Ron could finish, the other party immediately interrupted him. Excuse me, can you take me in? Just for one night, the woman looked pleading, but Ron was unmoved. Isn't this too bad? I don't even know your name. Who are you? What if you have any bad intentions towards me? In your Chinese words, I'm a young man. If you do something to me, I'll be ruined, Ron shamelessly said. Damn young man, you really don't care about your face. How can you say such a thing? You can call me Lai. You can actually speak Chinese. That's great. The woman who called herself Lai was excited. Can you help me? You look very skilled. Sorry, my mother taught me not to meddle in other people's business, Ron said as he walked towards his car. When Guoda left just now, he also rubbed his car and rubbed his bumblebee under the cliff on the road. It was impossible for one person to get it up. Ron glared at Lai angrily, and Lai shrank his neck in fear. Ron had no choice but to take out his mobile phone and call Toretto to drive a trailer over. On the other side of Los Angeles, the Port of Los Angeles, which is not too far from the city, is the largest container port in the United States. It also distributes the port's goods to all parts of the United States through the Southern Pacific Railway and the developed highway network in the United States. In a company's CEO's office not far from the largest port in the United States, An Asian man who looked a bit like Lai was arguing fiercely with his tall blonde subordinates, or it might be more appropriate to say that he was not scolding. "Wow. Tell me why," the middle-aged man said angrily. "Why can't you even keep an eye on a woman? My order to you is not difficult. I just ask you to help me keep an eye on my daughter. But you can't even do such a small thing. How dare you let her get lost? I just asked you to keep an eye on him and don't let him interfere with our work. I didn't expect you to let him run away. Oh my God, who can tell me where my daughter is now?" Wall stood up straight with his head down, saying nothing. Based on his understanding of his boss, it would be best to say nothing when he was furious, otherwise he would definitely be scolded more severely. Sure enough, everything went as Wall expected. After cursing for a while, the middle-aged man finally got a little tired and picked up the water cup on the table. Wall finally took the opportunity to report while drinking water, "Boss, in fact, your daughter is not lost. He just encountered some trouble on the way to the courier. The guy who delivered the courier said that she was rescued by an unidentified person, but fortunately, he still remembered the license plate number of that person. I have arranged for people to check the surveillance along the way. I believe that the real identity and address of the person who kidnapped your daughter will be found soon. Then, no matter what method you use, you must catch my daughter back." The middle-aged man interrupted Wall fiercely, "And, the person who kidnapped Lai in the middle, no matter who he is, must be killed for me, and no news is allowed to leak out. Do you hear me?" "Yes, boss." Wall was shocked and accepted the order. It was getting dark, and Ron finally had no choice but to bring her back under Lai's persistence. Of course, this helplessness was not necessarily pretended. Fortunately, Tale was a chatterbox, and Luo had roughly understood the situation along the way. In short, there was an evil smuggling gang that controlled Lai's father and 400 stowaways. She escaped from the human traffickers who controlled her by chance. She had just run a short distance when she was caught by the evil smuggling gang, and was about to be transferred to another place. At this time, Ron appeared and rescued him like a knight. The above is all from Lai's personal statement. Ron only believed half of her words, because there were too many loopholes in it, so many that he couldn't bear to complain. "So am I in big trouble?" "Yes, super big trouble," Lai nodded. "Unless you help me find the container number of the container, we can rescue the controlled stowaways. Only Wall knows the container number, so we must." Lai took the opportunity and immediately began to talk about her plan. Ron was overwhelmed and walked to the refrigerator to get a bottle of ice water and drank it. This is the suburb of Los Angeles, where the base of Ron's special operations team was before it moved. After the base was moved to a new site with a training ground, this became Ron's temporary residence. Ron planned to use it as a warehouse, but unexpectedly, Lai got the advantage first. "So I don't understand, why can't you just call the police for this kind of thing? The police will take care of everything," Ron pointed out Lai's loophole. "Oh, because you are better? You took care of the kidnapper who was transporting me just now in a few moves." "Yes, that's it." Lai put his hands together in front of his chest in a begging gesture. This action accidentally overlapped with a shot in a movie that Ron had seen in his previous life. Coupled with Lai's very low collar, Ron almost lost control for a moment and quickly collected his mind. "Thank you for your compliment, Mom." Ron paused, and with great effort, he turned his eyes away from the whiteness exposed at the collar, and said bluntly, "But as I said, you just stated a fact that I am very powerful, but you didn't explain why I must help you. You know, I just rescued you from the kidnappers and gave you a place to live. As a warm-hearted Texan, I have done my best. Your bedroom is on the left side of the corridor. I will take a shower and prepare for bed. I wish you a good dream. Good night." Transporting special cargo, a kidnapper who looks like Guoda, plus an image of a victim played by Shuki, together, Ron vaguely remembered that it seemed to be a real movie. But he remembered that this story should not happen in France? How did it come to Los Angeles? Ron thought about this question while taking a shower, but the sound of the water could not cover up the sound of the door being pushed open. Ron immediately reached out to the pistol next to the soapbox vigilantly. But when he reached out halfway, he suddenly froze. Because Ron could vaguely see Lai coming in through the mist in the mirror, wrapped in only a bath towel. "Ron, what are you doing?" Ron had a bad feeling in his heart. "To make up for the trouble I caused you," Lai hooked the door with his foot and took the initiative to get into Ron's arms. "Wait, why do you want to make up for it? Don't ask any more." Lai kissed him directly. and Ron could only raise his hands helplessly to show his innocence. Wait, I don't want to complicate things, I just simply passed by and saved you. By the way, Ron said this, but his mouth was blocked again. This time his resistance was much weaker than before. You like simplicity? Then it's very simple. Don't think too much. Ron finally remembered that it seemed that there was such a scene in the movie, but it was just with Guoda. So, because I replaced Guoda's original position, the benefits that Guoda should have enjoyed fell on me. 10,000 words omitted here. Slept until dawn. Ron, under the influence of his biological clock, tidied up briefly and came to the living room. He saw Lai, who was about to put red roses into a vase. Good morning, Ron. I just picked them from the garden outside. I hope you don't mind. Anyway, those flowers were planted by Arthur, so Ron certainly wouldn't mind. Ron twitched his mouth and didn't comment. Before coming to the living room, he had already gone to the study and looked around. There were obvious signs of things being turned over. He wanted to see what tricks she could come up with. I don't know if you like tea or coffee, so I prepared both. Which one do you like? Lai said attentively. Ron opened the refrigerator and waved the things in his hand to Lai. I usually like to drink milk in the morning. Are you playing the virtuous woman game with me? I won't play by the rules. What can you do? Haha, is that so? Just as the oven made a ding sound, Len smiled warmly. Then I guess you must like bacon and egg tarts with milk for breakfast. Len took the food out of the oven and held it in front of Ron. I hope these can dispel your vigilance against me. Well, now even Ron, who has always been on guard against Len, can't help but be a little moved. It must be said that this trick of pretending to be virtuous is too lethal to men, especially for Ron, who grew up in China in his previous life and was used to seeing traditional virtuous women, and was raised by a good mother like Mary after rebirth. The lethality is doubled. Leonard's mother once said that when a man is looking for a partner, he will unconsciously compare his partner with his mother, and the woman who really impresses a man often has similar qualities to his mother. At this moment, Ron saw the shadows of his mother and Mary in his previous life in Len almost at the same time. In this regard, Ron can only pretend to be cool to deal with it. Be careful, it's hot. Seeing Ron put the bacon roll to his mouth with a fork, Ryan reminded him quickly, but Ron had already put the food in his mouth. Is it delicious? Well, I think we need to get to know each other thoroughly. When Ryan heard Ron's call, he immediately sat on the chair next to him, half of his body almost leaning on Ron. Didn't we get to know each other thoroughly enough last night? Or do you want to get to know each other more deeply? Puff. Ron almost sprayed his milk on her face. Ryan quickly found a towel to wipe it for him. Why are you so careless? To be honest, Ron was a little overwhelmed. He really couldn't be hard-hearted towards the girl who had shown his favor to him from the beginning. Seeing that the more Ryan wiped, the more inappropriate it was, Ron simply took the towel. You know I happen to speak Chinese, and I guess you have seen my degree certificate in the study. Yes, I graduated from Harvard Chinese Language and Literature. Do you know what that means? What? Ryan answered guiltily, and his body pressed closer to Ron. It means I know that Lai will never appear as a name in Chinese. This is just a given name. You should also have a surname. Now can you tell me your real name? Dear Ms. Lai. Lai showed a triumphant smile. Is the name important? You? Halfway through the words, Ron suddenly covered her lips vigilantly. He seemed to hear something different. FXXK. It's RPG. This voice Ron was very familiar with. It was one of his most commonly used taxation weapons. But now there was no time for him to miss it. Ron hurriedly hugged Lai and rolled under the table. The arrow bullet passed through the window and hit the opposite wall and exploded. Ron hurriedly kicked the table down and blocked the two behind. Boom. Thanks to the previous collision incident, Ron had already replaced the furniture in the base. All the seemingly wooden tables and chairs were embedded with bulletproof steel plates. Ron was almost not affected except for the dust on his face. Okay, Ron pulled Lai up. Cough cough, very bad. Lai was choked by the smoke of the explosion and coughed. Okay, I'm glad you're fine. Just stay behind this table and don't come out. Do you hear me? Ron pushed Lai back behind a table and put a chair on top of her head. Wait. What are you going to do? They're all outside. They'll kill you. Kill me. Ron took out his holster and hung it on his body, sneering disdainfully. A bunch of scum who run the smuggling business are worthy? The person who can kill me hasn't been born yet. Wait for me. I'll be back soon. Ron leaned his gun towards the window and shot the gangster who was carrying a rocket launcher and was about to fire another round at Ron's base. The rocket that had been fired hit the accomplice standing not far away as the user fell down. Bang! The unlucky guy was blown into pieces. Ron succeeded in one shot and immediately shouted arrogantly to the outside, "Tisk, with this little strength, you dare to come to trouble me, you are a whole street away from Deckard Shaw." However, such a boastful behavior immediately attracted a string of bullets for him. Bullets from the automatic rifle hit the wall behind Ron, adding another row of bullet holes to the wall. Along with the wall, a painting that Ron bought at an auction was also destroyed, which made him feel painful. FXXK, this painting cost me $50,000. It's already this time, and you still care about the painting? What should we do now? Lai screamed and complained loudly. What should we do? Of course, kill them all. Ron swung his arms and threw the grenade out based on his memory. At the same time as the grenade exploded, he pulled out a Smith & Wesson M327 and jumped out of the window. The moment Ron jumped out of the window, he completed the aim. It's noon. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224 The End of the Human Smuggling Gang. Smith & Wesson M237, with a magazine capacity of 8 rounds. In actual combat, Ron could lock on to 6 targets at a time and still have enough power. So this time, he wanted to try his limit. Outside the window, the grenades that Ron threw out by feeling did not cause any casualties except for causing some panic to the attackers. Just imagine how accurate a grenade thrown casually could be. Ron did not have any skills related to throwing. However, just as Ron began to aim at the attackers, an attacker who had just fallen down for the grenade stood up from the ground, picked up his gun quickly and was about to fight back. Ron's movements were faster. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 10. Finally, when he aimed at the 10th target, Ron felt that his energy was about to be exhausted. If he did not shoot, he would not be able to hold on. So, fortunately, there were only 12 people outside, so he pulled the trigger. Bang! Ron fired 10 shots in an instant. At the same time, the corresponding 10 bodies with bullets in the eyebrows fell to the ground with astonished expressions. Only 2 of the 12 attackers outside were alive. However, they were so scared by Ron's amazing shooting skills that they didn't even look at him. They held the assault rifles in their arms and fired wildly at Ron, but how accurate could a gun that didn't even aim at it be? The bullets almost grazed Ron, but he was unscathed. After falling from the 2nd floor, Ron didn't even have the mood to hide. He stood there and raised his hand to shoot twice, ending the lives of the last 2 attackers. It's still too reluctant. Ron checked that all the attackers had been killed, and rubbed his swollen eyebrows. I should have known not to go through so much trouble. Hey, have you seen enough? Ron turned his head. Lai had sneaked down from upstairs without knowing when, and was peeking behind the low wall of the garden. Oh my god, Ron, you are so amazing. Lai was not embarrassed at all after being pointed out by Ron. She jumped into Ron's arms like a young swallow returning to its nest and pecked him lightly on the face, but was pushed away by Ron. Miss Lai, I'll call you that for now. Can you tell me why someone gave me rockets so early in the morning when I haven't even finished my breakfast? Ron walked to the body carrying the rocket launcher and kicked it with his foot, and there are 2 of them. I need a reasonable explanation. Who are they? They? Lai's eyes wandered for a moment, and he immediately changed the subject. They may be from the human trafficking group. I know the location of their company and can take you to get revenge. How about it, Lai? Do I look like a fool? Ron smiled playfully and stared at Lai with a scrutinizing look. Or should I call you Chen Lai? Haha, what are you talking about? Why don't I understand? Lai took 2 steps back in a panic, but Ron pressed on and held her in his arms intimately, just like a couple in love. I say, dear Miss Chen Lai, are you sure that your father, Mr. Chen He, the leader of the largest human trafficking group in Los Angeles, is also in the container transporting the illegal immigrants? Was he put in by his own men, just as Chen Lai would go to Ron's study to look through his things while he was asleep to confirm his identity? Ron certainly couldn't really feel at ease leaving a strange woman alone in his home, even if they had had close enough contact. Long before going to bed, he had sent all of Lai's information to Ramsey to ask her to help investigate. It would have been better if she hadn't checked. Once she checked, she found that this woman was actually the daughter of the boss of the largest local illegal immigrant gang in Los Angeles. So, Ron simply played a trick. Everything happened almost as written in his script. The only exception was that he never expected that the people sent by the other party to kill him would come so quickly, which caught him off guard. You already know, Chen-Li lowered her head. Yes, I am the daughter of that man, but I really don't want him to continue doing this kind of business. At this point, Chen-Li was already crying. Do you know? There are 400 people in each container every time, but only about 300 can arrive in the United States alive, and almost 100 people die on the way. But aren't there 300 lucky people who successfully landed in the United States? Ron patted her back and comforted her. Maybe they can live the happy life they want from now on, Ron said, but he didn't believe it at all. After living in the United States for so many years, no one knows better than him what kind of life those illegal immigrants live. There are three major sources of illegal immigrants in the United States. The first category is naturally the Latin Americans who smuggled in from the Mexican border. Their personnel composition is complex, and there are all kinds of people, including but not limited to Mexicans. Almost all the illegal immigrants in Panama, Venezuela, and Brazil in South America cross this border to enter the country. Therefore, a large Latin ethnic group has also formed in the United States. They stick together, and those who come first help those who come later, becoming the first force among the illegal immigrants. The second largest source is naturally the African blacks from Africa. As we all know, there is almost no pure land in Africa that is free from poverty, so the population outflow from Africa is very serious, so serious that it has almost dyed the whole of France black. Of course, there is no reason not to go to the more developed United States. The third largest source is the vast number of Asian illegal immigrants. Chen-Li's father is doing their business. A few decades ago, the main force of illegal immigration was basically Chinese, and with the growth of China's economic strength, illegal immigrants have gradually become Southeast Asians, such as Thailand, Malaysia, India, etc. However, unlike the other two gangs who helped each other after they came, Mr. Chen gave full play to the unique involution skills of East Asians. Almost all illegal immigrants who came illegally became free laborers in his hands. As for women, their fate is often worse. How is that possible? My father sold them all to various factories and plantations to work. They worked at least 10 hours a day and were only provided with enough food to sustain their lives. Anyone who escaped was killed by them. I must stop this from happening again. Can you help me, Ron? Chen-Li looked up, her eyes full of pleading. Of course, Ron agreed readily. Chen-Li was overjoyed, but it was too early for her to be happy. Ron's next sentence directly brought her mood to the bottom. So your father should have a lot of money. Maybe. Chen-Li was not sure. Why are you asking this? Of course it's for taxation. Ron threw out his IRS ID with a serious face. As far as I know, your father's freight company has been paying taxes as an import trading company, and the tax rate is only 7 points, and it gets tax refunds from time to time. This is unreasonable. This is a serious fraud, Ron said righteously, and he was already very happy in his heart. He took you in, acted with you, and even sacrificed his chastity. Would anyone really think that Ron was just too compassionate? You thought Ron was eyeing Chen-Li's beauty, but in fact he was eyeing the bonus. With a bonus, how many pretty girls can't he handle? By the way, your father has made a lot of dirty money in recent years, right? Chen-Li nodded blankly. She suddenly had a bad feeling, as if she was leading robbers to rob her home. At the port of Los Angeles, the company headquartered by the human trafficking gang, the leader Mr. Chen was pacing back and forth in the office while listening to the phone. 5 big men, including his most capable subordinate Wall, stood nervously beside him. Finally, Mr. Chen paused and hung up the phone. Everyone tensed up all of a sudden. Waste? A bunch of waste, Mr. Chen shouted. I have sent 15 men and equipped them with the best weapons. I didn't expect that guy to be so skilled. It's my fault, boss. Wall lowered his head and took the initiative to admit his mistake. According to his experience, taking the initiative to admit his mistake at this time will be exchanged for a lighter punishment from the boss. But he didn't expect that as soon as he finished speaking, a water cup was thrown on his head by Mr. Chen. Waste, Mr. Chen was so angry that he cursed. Is this what I am talking about? Who told you to do it? Blood flowed down Wall's face from the wound, but he didn't even dare to wipe it off. Boss, didn't you tell me to kill him yesterday? I followed your orders completely and tracked down his address through the monitoring system, and then, Mr. Chen's face flushed red. He remembered that he did give such an order yesterday, but as a boss, what if he was wrong? Bullshit. Don't you have a brain? After finding the place, don't you use your little head full of shit to investigate the other party's identity? Do you know who you have offended? He is the captain of the IRS Special Operations Team, a famous killer. It would be a piece of cake for him to kill all of you, let alone a team you send out. He even won the Navy Cross with another soldier named Forrest when he was serving in Afghanistan. Do you know why he got that medal? Obviously, the information about Ron in Mr. Chen's hands was much richer than expected, and his men shook their heads. He only used one squad to kill 2 companies. 2 whole companies. Mr. Chen slammed the table and yelled, but he was terrified in his heart. That killer may be on his way now. What should we do? You idiots, tell me what I should do. Mr. Chen continued to speak hysterically, but as soon as he finished speaking, as if to prove his words, a sound of breaking through the air was heard, and then the glass in the office shattered. There is an enemy attack. Wall had just had time to throw Mr. Chen behind the table, and a loud bang exploded behind him. Boom, the entire office, except for Wall and Mr. Chen who hid behind the table in time, was blown to pieces by the grenade. Outside, Ron slapped Hank's head unsatisfiedly. Asshole. Are you crazy? You actually aimed at the office and fired? If you kill the boss, who will we rob for money? No. We collect taxes. Ron made a slip of the tongue and almost said what was in his heart. Everyone looked at him strangely, and only Carl nodded happily in agreement. Ahem. Ron coughed heavily to cover up his embarrassment. What are you looking at? Why don't you work quickly, then I'll change my gun, Hank asked tentatively. No need, just use this. You and Carl clean up the outside minions as quickly as possible. Arthur, Giselle, you rush in from the left. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you block the back door. Ron checked the various equipment on his body and gave orders quickly. The headquarters of the human smuggling gang is close to the sea on one side, and the other 3 sides are extremely empty roads. This plan can just surround them inside without blind spots. What about you? Giselle asked. Me. Ron checked all the equipment and patted Giselle's hips heavily. Of course I will go in from the front. Brothers, let's start. Everyone took action immediately. Hank aimed the grenade launcher at the most densely populated area of the crowd again. With a flick of his finger, a charming blood flower burst out in the crowd in an instant. Carl's drone also took off quickly after Ron gave the order. The submachine guns hanging under the drones continuously poured bullets from the air at the human smuggling gangs, and just when their attention was attracted by the snipers on the roof and the drones flying in the sky, a car quickly drove out from behind the building under Ron's feet, dodged a series of bullets in the small building, and then made a big arc, and finally crashed into the side door of the small building, where the goods were loaded and unloaded. Before the human smuggling gangs guarding the building opened fire on the car, Arthur and Giselle, holding submachine guns, immediately jumped out of the car. 2 people, 2 guns, formed a dense firepower network, and quickly swept away the people inside. When the minions finally remembered to escape, outside the back door, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, each holding a squad machine gun, grinned and fired at the door. The 12.7mm caliber machine gun bullets ruthlessly tore the minions who were trying to escape from the back door into 2 pieces, and not even a complete body was left. Listen, everyone inside. We are the captain of the IRS Special Operations Team. You have been surrounded, Ron shouted arrogantly with a loudspeaker. From now on, I will count to 10s. If you don't drop your weapons and surrender, we will attack immediately. 10, 9, 8. Ron turned off the loudspeaker quietly when he counted to 8, and took out the intercom. Attack now, boss. Didn't you say 10s? Little Carl was a little confused. He was stunned by Ron's shameless look. 7, 6. Ron shouted 2 more numbers with a loudspeaker, and curled his lips in disdain. What do you know? This is called war is not afraid of deception. It is a tactic. Do you understand? 5. I told you that if you are ugly, you should study more. If you don't study, you will have no future even if you come out to make a living. 4. Ron persuaded earnestly. Little Carl curled his lips like Ron. It would be better to kill him than to let him study. Isn't that just cheating? He grew up in the slums and saw a lot. What kind of military strategy is this? If this can be considered a military strategy, then his father is a master of military strategy. The screen in front of Carl can display the camera images carried by each person. Except for Ron, the other 4 people have already gathered in the small building. Carl controlled a plane to fly under the office window, and was about to wait for Arthur and others to break the door before detonating it, but suddenly a hanger with white underwear on it stretched out from the office. "Captain, don't shoot. We surrender." Ron scratched her ears. If it weren't for the last sentence being different, she almost thought she was listening to a skit by Chen Pc and Zhu Shimeo. Surrender now? Chapter 225, Rajesh's Epiphany and the Stolen Apartment. Ron was no longer in the mood to take care of the rest of the things, so he handed them all over to Hank. Hank had already been a supervisor in the DIA, and now he was more capable of handling the work of the IRS. He was now sitting in Sheldon's favorite Chinese restaurant, preparing to order food despite Sheldon's big eye roll. Howard carefully glanced at Ron's face and began to show off. "It's been a long time since the five of us went out to eat together, I mean without women." Of course, his main target of showing off was Rajesh. Ron had countless girlfriends, Leonard had Penny, and Sheldon didn't need women, only Rajesh, who he longed for but couldn't get. "That's enough, we know that you have a girlfriend now, okay? Does it make you a little jealous?" "I'm so sorry, who is jealous?" Rajesh spread his hands. "Okay, I admit that I am willing to pay any price to have sex." "Can we order food now?" Ron reminded Rajesh. "In fact, if you want to develop a relationship beyond friendship with a girl, it is not that troublesome at all. What should I do?" "Ron, teach me." Rajesh's eyes lit up, and he held Ron's hand tightly. "It's very simple. You just need to casually show the amount of your father's savings, or the remittance slips they give you for living expenses every month in front of the girls." Ron pulled his hand out calmly. "Or, when you talk about family, you can show the girls photos of you and your family." "Photos? Of course I have shown the girls photos of my family, but it's useless." "Ron, did you make a mistake?" "Impossible," Ron asked suspiciously. "What photos did you show them?" "Could it be that your big villa and your father's Bentley were not in the photo?" Rajesh asked curiously. "Aren't you showing them my family?" "Why did I take the villa and Bentley in the photo?" Ron covered his face. He was speechless about the strange thinking of this Indian. "Rajesh, don't you realize it yet? The biggest attraction of you to women is your wealth. Believe me, if they know your wealth, they will never let you go easily." Rajesh fell into deep thought. He felt as if he had an epiphany and understood, but not completely. On the other side, Sheldon was making trouble again. Sheldon opened the menu. "Oh my god, they updated the menu, so what?" "The dishes haven't changed," Leonard said puzzledly. "Really? Look at this. General Tso's chicken is classified as Hunan cuisine. It's no longer a signature dish, but in the chicken dishes category." Sheldon turned the menu over and pointed at a dish on it. "So what? So, why is it not a signature dish? Is it that the chef here has no confidence in this dish, or is he no longer confident in himself?" Sheldon looked up and yelled at the waiter, and Ron finally couldn't bear it anymore and snatched the menu from his hand and quickly finished the order. "General Tso's chicken, mayo wang, steamed dumplings, sweet and sour pork with pineapple, shredded pork with Beijing sauce. That's it, thank you." "Hey, Ron, I haven't finished reading the menu yet," Sheldon yelled in dissatisfaction after the waiter left. "So what? You'll order these anyway. I just accelerated your ordering process and made some contributions to our healthy diet. God knows if you keep finding faults, the waiter will spit in our dishes," Ron said indifferently, but Sheldon's dissatisfaction could not be dismissed by a delicious meal. Sheldon kept nagging him about a menu until they returned to the apartment after dinner. "The more I think about it, the more wrong it is. The bandit sauce cannot contain rich pirate meat." "Why this time?" Ron didn't say anything. Leonard said, "Because it is classified as seafood." "What if they are a group of pirates who sleep with fish?" Leonard laughed halfway. Ron suddenly stopped Sheldon and the other man with his arm, and made a gesture to silence. "What's wrong, Ron?" Leonard found that Ron was abnormal and asked in a low voice. "Someone may have come to your apartment. I'll go to the front to check. You stay here and don't move." As he said that, Ron took out his pistol and moved slowly up the stairs with light steps. Ron has offended many people, from the Korean gangs in Los Angeles, the drug trafficking group of Uncle Fried Chicken, to the human trafficking group that he just cleaned up recently. To be honest, he had thought that this day would come a long time ago, but he didn't know which group would come today. When he walked to the door of Sheldon's apartment, the door lock of the apartment had been forcibly opened by a crowbar. Ron held the gun in his hand and suddenly kicked the door open. "Don't move." Unfortunately, he kicked it in the air. The house was empty, leaving only the messy apartment. All the valuable electrical appliances disappeared. Facts have proved that Ron thought too much. It was just a thief who stole things, and he hadn't encountered it yet. Oh my god. Oh my god, Leonard screamed. The TV is gone, and our laptop is gone. OMG. OMG. Oh my god. Sheldon looked at the messy house in despair and rushed into the bedroom quickly. What's wrong with him? Ron asked. Before Leonard could answer, Sheldon gave the answer himself. Sheldon patted his chest and came out of the bedroom. Fortunately, my comic books are still there. Ron was speechless. He didn't care about the TV and computer being lost, but only cared about your few broken comics. By the way, the doctor that Mom took Sheldon to see was not a quack, right? No matter how you look at it, it seems that there is something wrong with him. Pasadena's public security is pretty good. The police arrived in less than 30 minutes. Because this is not Ron's professional work, he sat aside and the police began to count the lost materials. They took away our TV, 2 laptops, 4 external hard drives, our PS2, PS3, Xbox and Xbox 360, classic Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, and Wii. The police were all confused, and Leonard had to add, we like to play games. By the way, speaking of games, they stole Call of Duty 1, Call of Duty 2, Halo 2, Halo 3, Sheldon's mouth was like a machine gun, reporting a series of game names. Some computer games, the police recorded it in the notebook. When will the crime scene investigation department arrive? They won't be here. Ron finally stood up, unable to bear it any longer. There's no need to use the crime scene investigation department in a theft case like this. If they come, believe me, they will only kill you because of me, and then cut you into 100 small pieces and stuff them in the refrigerator. Sheldon. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.